Morning, everyone. I'm going to call us to order. It is September 24th and it is 9:35 and we're going to call the governing board to order. The first item on the agenda is roll call to determine quorum. Maria, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Alding? Here. Ms. Reynolds?
Here.
Mr. Bass?
Here.
Ms. Conrad Seda?
Here.
Ms. Faustinos? She is on. We'll circle back, Ms. Faustinos. Ms. Gustafson?
Here.
Ms. Hayes? Ms. Hill?
Here.
Mr. Henigman?
Here.
Mr. Keycapper?
Here.
Ms. Lang?
Here.
Ms. Loomer? Mr. Rice?
Here.
Mr. Settlemeyer? Ms. Williamson?
Here.
And Ms. Faustinos.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Just a reminder to our remote committee members, please don't use the chat box to make any comments or have sidebar conversations. Members of the public who have joined us, when it's time for public comment, please come up to the microphone, or if you're joining us online, either press the raise hand button or dial *9 if you wish to speak. Next up on the agenda, agenda item 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could all please stand.
To the United States of America.
Thank you. Next up is agenda item 3, which is our public comment period. This is the public comment period for any item on the agenda. Any member of the public wishing to address the governing board on any agenda item, including items on the consent calendar, can either come to the microphone now or press the raise hand button or dial *9 on your phone. Members of the public, a reminder that public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. And we're going to start with members in person. So if anyone in person has a comment on any item on the agenda, now's your time. Please come on up. Good morning, Ellie.
Good morning, Ellie Waller, Douglas County resident. Effective communication is essential in any endeavor such as the proposed glamping project before you today. I ask you to postpone the approval after more comprehensive information, definition, and analysis is provided. This discretion lies with the executive director and this board, in my opinion. Detailed pages and pages of information can be found in the Acela files, not the parcel tracker per se, where most people are directed. There's a significant amount of info the public has not been made aware of because they don't know how to use Acela. Actual depictions of the units, glamping ground layout, and land capability, to name a few. Glamping may have a place in the recreation toolbox in the future, but not today. I believe this project proposal is precedent setting, and glamping is not sufficiently or effectively defined or analyzed by TRPA or any local jurisdiction. The loosely defined developed campground definitions and discretionary interpretation and lack of stringent mitigations are not sufficient enough to approve this new undefined use and project today, in my opinion. This project should require an environmental assessment to assess the impacts that the initial environmental checklist documentation does not require. The proposed built environment has newly undefined hardened structures, not typical of campsites, year-round sleeping structures on stilts that shouldn't be called tree houses, and hardened domes that are more like hotel rooms. Who will monitor rock outcroppings and possible movement of floaters as defined for compliancy and protection on the land there? A cultural study, a must, not when, oops, we found something, all based on what has already been uncovered at the nearby Rabe Meadows. The glamping use with no definition is no better than the Martis Camp Beach Shack shameful approval. This is history under the Placer County guise of single-family home remodel and then approved by TRPA as beach recreation, in my opinion, and subsequent approval of another out-of-the-basin private amenity, the Ritz Beach House, both in Tahoe Vista, my former home. These are precedent setting, and I think the same will happen with this glamping. Furthermore, this is an abuse of the Douglas County Plan Area Statement still in play. Again, in my opinion, yes, Plan Area Statement, not Area Plan. Curiously, TRPA records showed that the Plan Area Statement was edited by staff in April of 2025. Why and what was edited? TRPA has not required Douglas County to complete the TDAP. I know the Tahoe Douglas Area Plan was in motion until the Barton Hospital proposal came forward. Douglas County has no dedicated staff, to my chagrin, for Tahoe Township issues, relying heavily on TRPA staff guidance and usually an attorney as the project proponent. Many of the post comments asked you to delay approval today. Lastly, hotels are now at luxury level. Housing is unaffordable. Camping is the last vestige of a level playing field for everybody to enjoy Tahoe as envisioned. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. Anyone else in person? Please come on up. Hey, Toby, can you hit the button, please? The speaker button on the bottom of the microphone. It'll light up red. There you go. Thank you.
There. All right. Toby Tyler, retired environmental engineer, speaking on behalf of the Sierra Club's Tahoe Area Group regarding the proposed Round Hill private glamping site. We urge the governing board members to postpone this vote for the reasons I've explained in my written comments. There has been too little time for public review for this project, with an errata sheet coming out last night at the last minute. The check the box IEC is woefully inadequate and unsubstantiated with facts. The concept of a glamping site with permanent year-round tree houses and sleeping shelters has never been approved before and needs much more extensive environmental analysis than a checklist. Greenhouse gas emissions alone are a huge concern, considering the year-round camping site in snow country. Where's the greenhouse gas emission analysis for this project? There are also discrepancies in the provided reports. This project will increase vehicle miles traveled, causing worse traffic problems, especially during a wildfire evacuation. The demands for more and more recreation opportunities do not mean that TRPA must concede to those demands. When will enough be enough? When the lake becomes so polluted that it no longer attracts the hordes of tourists? Conceding to development and recreational pressures will be the ultimate demise of the lake, which is already showing persistent severe summertime clarity problems. Your job is to protect the lake, not appease the hordes of tourists and moneyed interests. See my written comments for more specific questions and unsubstantiated claims of no environmental impact. I'd also like to use this opportunity to object to the change in your public comment procedures. The deletion of public comments during the discussion of a decisional item on the agenda is tantamount to censorship. Without the ability to provide public comments after an item has been presented by staff and the discussion by board members has been heard, the public is utterly disrespected by being shut out of the process. We urge you to reinstate public comments during an agenda item and before voting on the item. Thank you.
Others in person?
Hello, I'm Jack Bowers, local resident that lives on the lake in the Zephyr Cove area. My daughter is the one that is putting together this proposal. She's attending virtually. I have no financial interest in the project, but I just wanted to express a few observations. I'm a big renewable power enthusiast, clean energy enthusiast, and my daughter has designed this project in a low impact way, in a way that I think will attract a lot of people who drive electric vehicles. With on-site charging and a Tesla supercharger less than a block away, I think you'll end up seeing a lot of people that are driving electric vehicles to enjoy this modern camping experience. I also want to point out a personal observation. I'm a runner and I use the trails that are next to this property. And it impresses me how much you can get around on foot once you are at this property. It's easy to walk to the store to buy things. It's easy to walk to the beach, Nevada Beach. It's even easy to walk on the trails or take scooters or ride a bike to the South Lake Tahoe area as well. So while you may have to drive an electric vehicle to get there, you probably just stay parked the whole time you're enjoying the property. So for what it's worth, I just wanted to put in my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Others?
Got it. Good morning, board chair, board members. Laura Patton speaking on behalf of the League to Save Lake Tahoe on the reporting and accountability item. The league really strongly supports TRPA's efforts to strengthen transparency, accountability, and compliance tracking. As you know, many of the environmental gains we've made around the basin, from water quality improvements to habitat restoration, really depend not only on the conditions of approval being written into the permits, but also on those commitments really being implemented and enforced for the long term. We especially appreciate the focus on developing a system to track post-construction permit commitments. These are often the conditions that matter the most to Lake Tahoe's environment and water quality. Things like stormwater treatment maintenance, invasive species management, long-term monitoring. If those measures fall through the cracks and are not monitored, the public's trust is really undermined and the basin bears that environmental cost. We also support TRPA's plan to make permitting conditions smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and also time-bound. Clear expectations benefit both staff and permittees and really provide a stronger foundation for accountability. As the league, our mission is to keep Tahoe blue. We believe that building these tracking and reporting systems is really essential to ensuring that approved projects really deliver the environmental protections that, we all promised and came here to protect. We encourage the board to endorse staff's proposed priorities and deliverables, and really to continue refining and adapting this work in collaboration with stakeholders and the public as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in person on any agenda item, now's your chance. Please come up.
Good morning, board. Scott Lundgren. I'm the fire chief for Tahoe Douglas Fire. And I'm here just to comment a little bit on the private campground that's going in the Round Hill area. My fire prevention team and fire marshal have been working with that group for over a year. We did already set the guidelines for entrance, exits, turnarounds, fire hydrants, fire safety mechanisms inside, fire sprinklers for their buildings, and emergency access in and out. And I think one of the things to bring up is that the Highway 50 is not a daily access for everybody. I think that most of the board probably understands that, but I'm not sure the public does. That was a requirement that we put on because we wanted to see 2 ways in and 2 ways out. So their main entrance is going to be off of Elks Point. And then the Highway 50 across from Sewer Treatment Plant Road on Highway 50 is only for emergency access or for evacuation. And so if you had any questions related to the fire side or fire safety or public safety, that's where we would be involved. But just wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Lindgren. Did we lose a mustache, Chief Lindgren? I barely recognized you.
Yes. Thanks for noticing.
Looking great. Good to see you.
Nobody recognizes me, which I like now.
Thank you. Anyone else in person? Mr. Fair, come on up. You got to hit your button, Carl. Thank you.
I'm Carl Fair, and I moved from Tulsa to Lake Tahoe back in 1973. I've raised my family here, and I'm happily retired. I am speaking in favor of the Talaz Develop Campground project. Although I live here, I enjoy camping in the basin with my family and friends whether at Nevada Beach, Fallen Leaf, or boat camping in Emerald Bay. It's not easy getting a campsite reservation. Demand far exceeds supply. The 53 new campsites adjacent to Nevada Beach, I feel is a win. I've tent camped, trailer camped, RV camped, and at this point in my life, having an alternative without needing to gear up is welcome for me, my sons, their wives, and my grandkids. I am impressed with the project, which includes free e-bikes, EV shuttles, and most impressed on the 9 on-site beds for year-round employees. As a veteran of multiple knee surgeries, the inclusion of ADA accessible units is much appreciated. I can't think of a better use for this 9-acre parcel within walking distance of the beach, trails, dining, and shopping. Great project. Please approve.
Thanks, Carl. Anyone else in person? Sorry, you got, there you go. Yep.
Okay, there we go. Laura Koski again. Expansion is defeating the whole purpose of why people are coming here to Tahoe. And a lot of locals as well as tourists have voiced their concerns. The increasing noise pollution needs to really be considered, as well as the pollution of the lake. And I've been notified that we fired the scientists from Davis that knew to put the shrimp in the lake to get the clarity back. And I really feel like this is just another basically meal ticket for the TRPA to give you guys funds. And I'm really concerned because Round Hill has absolutely no room to be expanding. And folks are losing their fire insurance, and they're really upset. The California Fair Plan is tripled. And when you put in a campground, the fire insurance will triple in that area. And Nevada could end up copying California, where they come up with saying, hey, this is high risk and you're going to lose your fire insurance. And I don't even know if California or if Nevada has a backup plan once the residents lose their fire insurance. Okay, July 4th, we had a gunfight and a lot of vandalism. And I really think we just need to outlaw alcohol sales now on July 4th. The young teenagers are just not responsible. And we had several gang members removed from our area, as well as the Douglas area and Carson City. Bears were killed for aggression in Camp Richardson. Several locals were out protesting killing of the bears and trapping them. All bears should be transported out of the area, and I really don't think that any should be killed. I really feel they're just killing the mother bears to keep the cubs and then have a tourist attraction. Tow trucks continue to remove all the vehicles, and it's $600 on concert days and up by Inspiration Point. I think we really need to concentrate on managing and helping the tourists know where to pick up a bus to go out to Inspiration Point and other areas. And then on the high volume days is when a lot of the scooters and e-bikes are getting hit. And I feel like this is just the green climate hoax being pushed, and the hospital is inundated. The nurses have already informed me of how many accidents they're being inundated within a certain, night or evening, and it's happening on these high volume concert nights. So if we could put in the newspaper to have no one out there riding their bikes, cycling, especially even the adults. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Others in person, come on up.
Okay. Good morning, governing board members. My name's Stacy Noyes. I am a Round Hill resident, and I am testifying in favor of the developed campground project Telez. I've raised my family here in Lake Tahoe, been here almost 30 years. While local, I enjoy camping locally. Originally from the East Coast, I have lots of friends and family that come to Lake Tahoe to experience something that is otherworldly to them. And certainly from the East Coast, gearing up and camping is impossible. So they rely on me to provide an option. That's a lot of gear for me. I'm one of 5 kids. I am most excited about it because it allows camping accessibility. I have a disabled son who 3.5 years ago had a skiing accident, is now permanently disabled, loves camping and hasn't been able to camp. Now this provides an option. I was just sharing it with him this morning when I brought him some food, and he's thrilled about this opportunity, as is my 82-year-old mother, although hopefully she doesn't know I just told you how old she is. She would like to go camping also and no longer can navigate the tents and things like that. So we have a lot of East Coasters and locals that are looking forward to this. If you've ever tried getting a reservation for camping, particularly Nevada Beach, it's fierce competition and sellout is certain instantaneously, it seems. You know, I know families that have mom has a computer, dad has a computer, all 5 kids have a computer, their dog's got a computer, and they hit the button to get their dates and sites and it's done. Adding the 53 sites here adjacent to Nevada Beach won't solve that undersupply, but it's certainly a positive step in the right direction to address the shortage and a contemporary product that has so many uses that I personally look forward to. And it's my experience additional to, you know, tourists, as people like to say, but campers and people who recreate outside are great stewards of our forest and our lake and will respect it and not add damage. I also understand that site could have been developed or could be developed as an RV park, but I'm pleased that this eco-friendly year-round proposal is before you today, especially because of the 9, I think, on-site employee accommodations, and I respectfully request for your favorable decision.
Thank you, Stacy. Others in person? Okay, let's then go online. If we could please go to Zoom or the phones.
Madam Chair, we have 7 hands raised online.
Okay,
First hand raised is Steve Teixeira. Steve Teixeira, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Williamson and members of the governing board. For the record, Steve Teixeira on behalf of Tahoe Chamber. Following the presentation, you will hear this morning under Planning Matters, item 7B, Developed Campground Project. Tahoe Chamber urges you to approve the project. As noted in the staff report dating back to 2001, various developments have been proposed for this property, including one involving a major plan revision and a direct primary access to Highway 50. In 2004, TRPA permitted the construction of a single-family residence, a special use for the plan area. That permit has expired. The plan area involved is 070B with a recreation use designation, stating that recreation uses should continue and that camping areas in the plan area should be expanded. The developed campground proposal before you today meets the objectives of the plan area statement and offers a greater public benefit than the previously approved residential use. The proposed use is also consistent with the national trend to provide permanent structures at campgrounds, including yurts, domes, and tree houses. Lake Tahoe is a renowned visitor and camping destination. Visitors, including families and those of us who are a little older, are looking for unique camping experiences, and this project will provide that opportunity. The thorough staff report details the issues for your consideration, including land capability and coverage, scenic, density, height, water quality, access, regional plan compliance, as well as required findings and a draft project permit. You're receiving today some late testimony arguing that your consideration and vote should be delayed. The project proponent has submitted a detailed application. Your staff has analyzed that application and provided a detailed staff report. We see no reasonable basis for a delay. The project proposal is solid, it's compatible with the plan area statement, and consistent with your adopted regional plan. Tahoe Chamber respectfully urges your approval today. Thank you.
Next hand raised is Carol. Carol, please unmute yourself.
Good morning. Are you able to hear now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. My name is Carol Chaplin. I am the president and CEO of the Lake Tahoe Visitors Authority. And I also have the Event Center project. So I did appreciate the league's point of view on the TRPA's recent adoption of some additional oversight. We appreciate the support of the staff. But I am here today to talk about the campground project, and I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but because I think this is an important project for us, especially at this time. Actually, the project checks all the boxes for me. It takes land use from private single-use development to one for public good. And by public good, I mean going back to the triple bottom line. I don't hear that term very often anymore, but it still is a TRPA goal to protect the environment, to sustain the economy, and to recognize the importance of our community. The land use already recognizes campgrounds as an allowed use, and the sustainability elements set a new bar for projects. Workforce housing, recycling, EV charges, plastic-free vehicles, or plastic-free, walkable to local businesses and services. And importantly, the concept is one that will enhance our destination with a product that appeals to an audience we see growing. A market that enjoys and respects the outdoor environment, a demographic that seeks a deeper connection with the destination, and a unique experience that fosters a stewardship mentality, which, as we know, welcomes this visitor to engage in and support our environmental protective efforts. Thank you.
The next hand raised is Lisa O'Daly. Lisa, please unmute yourself.
Good morning. I'm Lisa O'Daly. The final decade of my career focused on recreation, including as TRPA's Recreation Program Manager. SF Gate recently characterized campgrounds as cheap hotels without walls. I applaud the limited glamping options, such as seasonal yurts, offered at many of Tahoe's traditional campgrounds. They get families outside with a smaller equipment investment. Their modest scale is consistent with the tents and RVs also enjoying the campground, and they cost about $80 a night. Contrast that to Big Sur's private Tree Bones Glamping Resort, where its autonomous tent collection begins at $948 a night. The campground you're being asked to consider would offer permanently constructed rentals of up to 586 square feet, some with private bathrooms. Compare this to a cozy tent cabin at Yosemite's Curry Village. We all know what a campground is. Cool as it is, this glamping proposal just isn't a campground. I understand the desire to squish the project into Code Chapter 21's developed campground definition. The site is recreation land and thus outside of the TRPA urban boundary and ineligible for tourist accommodation uses. I ask you to consult with regional recreation providers before broadening through interpretation the definition of a developed campground. I'd also suggest another TRPA recreation use category, namely group facility, is more appropriate for this project and permissible within PAS 070B. Such group facility uses include Berkeley Camp and the Zephyr Point Conference Center. Also, consider past TRPA use verifications, such as for Tahoe Vista's former Sandy Beach Resort. The 12 lakeside parcel cabins that the Tahoe Conservancy acquired were verified separately from the resort's campground and not as payouts. Similarly, other Forest Service resort properties provide diverse lodging options separate from their campgrounds. Finally, the staff summary says that Code Section 31.3.3 requires For payouts, the measure of recreation site capacity for each campground site. The code actually says, if you look, the inverse, that 4 people at one time is equivalent to 1 recreation site. Digest that. Doesn't it imply that a 4-person recreation campsite might be smaller than some of the shelters proposed? Perhaps the project's 212 payout capacity should be a condition of approval. Thank you.
The next hand raised is Michelle and possibly Carrie Sarnoff. Michelle and Carrie, please unmute yourself. Michelle and Carrie, please unmute yourself. Okay, I'll come back to them. The next hand raised is Alan Miller. Alan, please unmute yourself.
Hello, Alan Miller, civil and environmental engineer. I'm speaking in support of my written comments today opposing item 7B, the proposal for a new type of campground, not in TRPA's code, that TRPA is pushing through its standard checklist approval process, ignoring the compact, ignoring the regional plan goals and policies, and simple reliance on the code of ordinances to guide, and ignoring parts of that as well. With this simple proposal, TRPA proves yet again that it does not know how to assess environmental impacts. TRPA and its staff stand up here, meeting after meeting, project after project, reciting illegal code of ordinances like it's the Bible, their means to arrive at a finding of no significant impact. Reciting deficient code with a dismal level of environmental effect analysis does not support the goals and policies of the regional plan, and that includes for this project. The result of this illegal and deficient approach to regulation is the subject of my petition exposing the illegal regulations and my independent report on Lake Tahoe water quality, which TRPA is actively destroying. TRPA has an enforcement item where 2 trees greater than 24 inches in diameter were cut, and the owners are settling for $20,000. With this project, 75 trees greater than that in diameter will be cut, and there's no significant effect. Almost 300 trees in all will be cut, and there's no significant effect from that. The Fonzie fails, and I hope you get sued for your fraud. Now, before Angora, I had a huge tree in my backyard, about 40 inches, and it grew right over my house. And TRPA came out, it was within 5 feet of my house, and they wouldn't allow this tree, which dropped debris on my house continuously, to be cut. Well, that changed after Angora. Now it seems like no matter how many trees are cut, there's no significant effect. I just don't understand how it works in one direction but not the other. The trees provide magnificent water quality, habitat for wildlife. They provide water quality benefits. Nothing is considered. TRPA just recites its stupid code that doesn't comply with the regional plan and then moves ahead and then never looks back. Never a cumulative effects analysis, and the lake quality is being destroyed as well as the quality of the regional environment. I oppose the project on that basis. I urge you to read my comments.
Go back to Michelle and Carrie Sarnoff. Please unmute yourself
Yeah.
to make your.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
I am so sorry. I'm technologically challenged, I guess. My name is Carrie Sarnoff, and my wife and I, Michelle, support the approval of this developed campground project. We live in Lake Tahoe in Douglas County and have been living there since 1997. We are retired and feel fortunate to live in such a beautiful place. We support public access for recreation for both visitors and locals. It is no secret that the demand for outdoor recreation has increased and the availability of campsites has not. The addition of 53 new campsites near Nevada Beach, Round Hill Pines, and Lamwata Trail and the Round Hill Shopping Center is a positive step in increasing public access to year-round recreation. We understand the project embraces the principles of the Destination Stewardship Initiative, raising awareness of the region's sensitive environment and promoting sustainability. We all know workforce housing is also a scarce commodity in the basin. Constructing year-round housing for 9 workers is a small but significant step, setting a great example for other developers. We wish to thank the governing board members for your attention and your consideration of this unique opportunity to provide public access for recreation on private lands. Thank you so much.
The next hand raised is Freddie Bitts. Freddie Bitts, please unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Oh, this is, that's funny, Freddie Bitts. My name is Brett Tibbetts. First of all, I would like to 100% endorse Toby Tyler's comments on your ever-changing public comments standards. I think these comments should go at the end of the staff presentation, not before. Unless your modus operandi as a board is to rubber stamp the TRPA staff, I do not know how you can approve this glamping project today. Is this a campground or a hotel? Everybody keeps calling it a campground, but I do not believe for 1 minute that's what it is. So I wouldn't know how to vote really if I were you. This is not a small project deserving of the small project process TRPA has decided to apply to it. This is a 53-unit glamping site on 9 acres with a long boundary directly on Highway 50. It is in a very prominent place. It appears to have very permanent structures that look a lot like a hotel in many ways. Can we agree that a hotel would require a completely different level of review than a site with just empty campsites or more traditional campsites? Does the TRPA even have defined standards for glamping? Right this moment, when you're at your computers as a board, right now, when you're sitting there, I urge you, I plead with you to go to the website ecoresort.network, ECORESORT.network. Rachel Bowers, the applicant of this project, is part of Eco Resort Network. So by looking at this site, you will know this is not camping at all. This will be a luxury resort, very similar to what Lisa talked about earlier at Big Sur. This is very, very high-end elitist stuff, it appears. And if it's not, then you should table this so that we can everyone can know what's going on here. The level of review to date appears to be nominal, with a lot of discretion and interpretation in favor of the applicant applied by TRPA staff. In my mind, this project is screaming for an environmental assessment and not the checklist approach utilized. I urge you to table approval of this project until there has been more time to digest the project, discover what it really is, and then apply the appropriate level of review. Thank you.
The next hand raised is Doug Flaherty. Doug, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, Doug Flaherty, TahoeCleanAir.org. In connection with agenda item 7B, TahoeCleanAir.org references and adopts the verbal and written comments as presented by Ellie Waller and Toby Tyler of the Sierra Club, and just recently Brett Tibbetts, as if those comments were our own. Thank you so much.
The next hand raised is Alexis Olar. Alexis, please unmute yourself.
Good morning, TRPA governing board members. Alexis Aller, Executive Director of Mountain Area Preservation. I'd like to make some comments regarding the Tahoe Living Working Group. You'll have a committee report later this afternoon regarding that. And there was a committee meeting on Monday, September 22nd, to review a significant package of draft policies for what is called the Phase 3 process, or also known as cultivating community and conserving the basin. I'd like to thank Vince for your participation this week. I think it was wonderful to have a governing board member with the committee all day, as well as a participant of the committee. So thank you, Vince, so much for your participation. I'd also like to remind the board that the goal of this, hence the name, is cultivating community and conserving the basin. Growth caps have been stated will remain in place, that we will not be adding new growth to the basin in this process. And as we start to go through this briefing book, we are very concerned that that is exactly what will happen with some of the exemptions and concepts that are coming forward in these draft policies. I believe that if more of the community and the Lake Tahoe Basin were aware of this process, potentially adding growth to the basin, there would be more citizens involved in this process, which is why I want to make this point clear to the governing board that through this process, you've stated that the growth caps will remain and that the goal is to unlock existing units and convert tourist accommodation units and bonus units to deed restricted workforce housing. It is critical that we stay focused on the current growth caps and not add to the basin, especially under the guise of deed restricted workforce housing. With that said, I'd also like to make a comment that it is critical that the staff and the governing board prioritize unlocking our existing units. Every workshop I've attended, citizens, housing stakeholders have said, let's focus on our low-hanging fruit and prioritize the existing units in the basin. And yet, for some reason, we do not see that being prioritized. So again, cultivating community, conserving the basin, adding to the basin will not conserve our sensitive, fragile environment. So thank you so much for hearing me out this morning, and for the citizens in the room and those online. I really would like for everyone to start paying attention to the Phase 3 process, cultivating community and conserving the basin. This is where a whole host of new planning is headed. And if you care about deed restricted workforce housing for our seniors, our low-income communities, our disabled community members, you'll start participating. Thank you so much for hearing me this morning.
And the next hand raised is Stacy Baker. Stacy, please unmute yourself.
Hi. Hello?
Hey, Stacy, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Stacy Baker, 30+ year resident here, retired veterinarian. I've listened to comments from my neighbors such as Stacy Noyes or Carl, who do not seem to understand the huge scope of this project as stated by Alan and by Doug and by Alexis. If this is what Carol said, to be a triple benefit, what about the environment? As Stacy Noyes says, all of her East Coast family is in awe of Tahoe. Tahoe is overdeveloped. The environment cannot accept this type of burden. Campers are not friendly with the ecology. They litter, trample off trail, harass local species such as insects, or schooling fingerling rainbow trout. I have witnessed this in the 30 years I have been here. This project, the campground 7B, cannot be approved. It is screaming for an environmental review. If Chaplin is correct and it's a triple benefit, the only thing that's not being benefited is the environment. And if we do not take care of our environment, there's not going to be an economy. There are so many conference centers from Zephyr Cove all the way to State Line We don't need conference centers and we don't need this. What we do need is a sensitive riparian and ecosystem. As temperatures rise, ice caps melt, weather is more extreme and people die, the planet's response is a tree. Trees provide shade, offset our carbon footprint, keep the temperature cooler. All of this deforestation we have experienced is warming up our neighborhoods. If you approve this, why not just approve bulldozing the entire thing, removing every single tree, every single wildlife habitat, every single species, and just put in 500 luxury homes? Because that's what this is almost akin to. Please do an environmental impact study. TRPA, please hear us. Please hear the environment that can't call in a comment. Where are the beavers going to live? What about migrating birds? We have seen sandhill cranes. We have seen bald eagles, peregrine falcons. We have great horned owls. Species biodiversity and biodiversity matters. And the healthier and more beautiful our environment, the more people want to come here. And yes, you'll get your money. And all of these developers will get their money. But we can't do this by taking out every single sensitive area. This will spell doom. Tahoe is doomed with all of this development. We need to stop. We are at capacity, if you look at it, from hectare acres and what the local ecosystems and riparian areas can absorb. And they're done. It is really tragic what's happened at Kale Meadow. It is tragic you approved the Tahoe Beach Club. The environmental devastation is so obvious and you continue. Why can't you,
Stacey, we've passed 3 minutes. Can you please finish your thought?
Yes, please consider the environmental impact and do not approve this project. Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no more hands raised to comment.
All right, thank you all. We're going to move on, excuse me, to the next agenda item, which is approval of the agenda. Director Reagan, are there any changes?
No, Madam Chair.
We will deem the agenda approved as posted then. Agenda item 5 is approval of the minutes. These are from August 27th and are on page 25 of your packet. Any board members wishing to make any changes?
No, Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes from the governing board meeting of August 27th, 2025 as presented.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to agenda item 6, which is the TRPA consent calendar. There are 3 items on consent. The first 2 items were reviewed by Operations and Governance Committee, and the third item was not reviewed by any committee. Member Lane, do you mind giving us an update on agenda items 1 and 2?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Operations and Governance looked at consent item number 1, which were the August financials. We dove into those pretty deeply, and we do recommend approval. We also looked at item number 2, which is the release of the fiscal year 2026 Nevada funding to go to the Tahoe Transportation District. The comments by board members were very supportive of the Nevada contribution. And we even discussed that that's an idea that I think we need to look at in California. So we also recommend approval of item number 2.
Thank you for that update. The third item on consent is the Advisory Planning Commission APC membership reappointment to the Douglas County lay member, Garth Alling. Thanks, Garth. Information on this item can be found on page 83 of your packets. Does any governing board member have any comment or question on any of the consent items? And if no one does, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar. Thank you. We have a motion. Any discussion? Hearing none. Maria, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Aldine?
Yes.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Seda?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Faustinos?
Yes.
Mr. Keykefer?
Yes.
Ms. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Henigman?
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Loomer?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson,
Yes,
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
thank you. Let's move on then to agenda item 7, which is planning matters. 7A is our first agenda item in item 7. This is the bike trail project, Placer County segment 1 of the North Tahoe Regional Bike Trail. This 2.4-mile segment of trail goes from North Tahoe Regional Park to Carnelian Bay in Placer County with TRPA file number EIPC 2025-0006, Environmental Improvement Program number 3220003. Information on this item is on page 85. I think Shannon Friedman, good to see you. And if you could please present this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, governing board members. I'm Shannon Friedman with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. And today I am recommending the governing board approve the North Tahoe Regional Bike Trail Segment 1. This is 2.4 miles of a Class 1 shared use trail. And a shared use trail is a 10 to 12 foot wide paved trail that is completely separated from the roadway and provides two directional traffic for pedestrian and cyclists, and offers a safe transportation alternative to the private automobile. And they make connections and achieve the goals in our regional active transportation network. Placer County is proposing this project, and Andy Dyken with Placer County is available online today. Next slide, please. There are 3 reasons why this project requires governing board approval. One is the length of the trail. The second is substantial tree removal, and the third is the special use findings. The code requires governing board approve projects that are longer than 1 mile in length, and this trail is 2.4 miles in length. The code also requires the governing board approve projects that include substantial tree removal, which is removing over 100 live trees greater than 14 inches diameter at breast height over a 3-acre project area. This project will remove up to 396 trees between 14 inches and 30 inches diameter at breast height. No trees larger than 30 inches are proposed to be removed, and that's important because that's considered an old growth tree in the west side forest types. And that is a lot of trees, but when you consider a 2.4 mile length of trail and 3 acres, and a lot of these trees are smaller in size, it is not that significant. And also, these types of trails, it's feasible that they can provide a fire break during an emergency situation, and they are engineered and built to handle a small emergency vehicle. So a small fire truck or an ambulance could access the trail network to assist in an emergency situation. A portion of the trail goes through the Watson Creek subdistrict of the Placer County Tahoe Basin Area Plan. That subdistrict is a conservation land use, and trails require special use findings, which are required to be approved by hearings officer or governing board. And those findings have been made in the staff report. So those are the 3 reasons why it requires governing board approval, but it's also great to present this project and identify all of the regional goals that it will achieve. There are some scenic, the trail is visible from both State Route 28 and Lake Tahoe, both scenic travel routes. The project will not have an impact on those scenic resources. Vegetation and trees will be retained to provide screening, and any built features like some retaining walls that are required due to the slope will be designed to have texture and color that will blend and complement the natural environment and not stick out. This picture here is an example of an existing shared use trail in North Lake Tahoe. And you can see the rock retaining wall on the side is a great example of how built features can be designed to complement the natural environment through color and texture. And while you can tell it's a wall, it blends in quite nicely. The project is a sustainable recreation and transportation environmental improvement program project. And like all EIP projects, it will advance TRPA thresholds. This particular project will advance threshold attainment in recreation and air quality. By implementing shared use trails, it is improving access to recreation, and by providing a safe alternative to transportation and filling in gaps in the active transportation network, it reduces reliance on the private automobile, will reduce vehicle miles traveled, and help achieve our air quality thresholds. Next slide, please. So some more specifics about the trail. Again, it is a 2.4 mile segment of trail that will connect
the North Tahoe Regional Park in Tahoe Vista to Carnelian Bay. This 2.4 miles is part of the larger North Tahoe Regional Bike Trail, which is a 6-mile bike trail in North Lake Tahoe that will fill a gap in the North Lake Tahoe region between Carnelian Bay and the North Tahoe Regional Bike Trail. And once complete, you will be able to use a shared use path all the way from Tahoe City to Kings Beach. The project crosses multiple land ownerships, including state, federal, and a existing easement through private property. The project is a collaboration between Placer County and the North Tahoe Public Utility District. Placer County is implementing the project, and pending an agreement with the North Tahoe Public Utility District, they will take over the maintenance of the project once it's complete. And that is typical for trails in the North Lake Tahoe region that fall under the Tahoe City Public Utility, or North Tahoe Public Utility District, sorry, to maintain trails once they are built. Next slide, please. This is a map that shows the trail network in the Placer County portion of North Lake Tahoe. The solid lines show the existing trails within this region, and the dotted lines show the proposed trails. The green line is the Class 1 shared use trail network there, and the purple is the Class 1 trail network. And Class 1 are basically bike lanes on the road shoulder that are a minimum 5 feet wide and are signed and striped as bike lanes. And so you can see on the left or west side of your map, there is a Class 1 shared use trail from Tahoe City all the way up to Dollar Hill. And then on the right side or east side of the map, there's the Pine Drop Trail that goes right now from Brockway to the North Tahoe Regional Park. The dotted lines in the middle show the proposed trail network, which make up the North Tahoe Regional Trail. Segment 1 that is highlighted in yellow is segment 1 that we're talking about today. And you can see it makes connections from the North Tahoe Regional Park in Tahoe Vista to Carnelian Bay. And once it is constructed, you would be able to bike on a Class 1 trail from Kings Beach all the way to Carnelian Bay. This makes an important connection in both the trail network region-wide and the North Tahoe Resort Triangle in Placer County, which is a regional transit and trail network to connect Tahoe City, Kings Beach, and Truckee. Next slide, please. It also provides connections for the region-wide Tahoe Trail. The Tahoe Trail is a grand vision to provide a Class 1 shared use trail that circumnavigates all of Lake Tahoe. The green line represents the 35.4 miles of existing trail within the Tahoe region, and the yellow represents the 69 miles of proposed Class 1 trail that still needs to be built. Towards the north of this map, you can see that yellow section between Tahoe City and Kings Beach that makes up the North Tahoe Regional Trail System. Once this trail system is complete, you will be able to use a Class 1 trail to get around from Kings Beach all the way to Meeks Bay on the West Shore. So that is pretty significant advancement. And once segment 1 is complete, it'll bring the miles of completed trail to just almost 38 miles of completed shared 1 trail system. Next slide, please. TRPA has been planning a framework for an active transportation network through the Regional Transportation Plan and the Active Transportation Plan as well, and Placer County as well through the North Tahoe Resort Triangle Transportation Plan. These plans are important because it aligns agencies on the priorities of projects they want to implement to achieve our active transportation goals and air quality goals. They also help implementers achieve funding so they can implement these important projects that are laid out in these plans. They also provide an opportunity for public engagement throughout these development of these plans. There's a public engagement process, and the public is able to weigh in on the goals, the visions in the plan, and the projects identified to achieve those goals. Next slide, please. In addition to the public engagement that occurs through all of our planning processes, Specific public engagement occurred throughout the development of segment 1 of this trail. In March of 2022, Placer County held a public meeting and also had a 30-day public comment period. 6 unique comments were received as part of that public engagement process. TRPA sent notice of application and public hearing to properties that were directly impacted by this, as well as it being put on the agenda and noticed for this governing board meeting. And as of 4 o'clock yesterday, we received 2 public comments on this project as well. Those comments range from general support for the project to some concerns over parking and whether projects like this will actually increase tourism and be a draw to the area. And to respond to some of those comments, there is adequate parking at the North Tahoe Regional Park. And when we build these trail segments, the goal is to expand on that trail network that I explained, and not all trail segments have a unique parking lot attached to it. Through technology and signage, users can find places to park if they need to, or ideally be able to access the trail network from where they're residing or where they're staying to get to other recreation places, their business, school, what have you. Next slide, please. So as I said, Placer County is implementing the project, and pending agreements with North Tahoe Public Utility District, they will be maintaining the project. The project received funding from the Federal Highways Administration, Caltrans, the California Tahoe Conservancy, as well as Placer County TOT T-bid dollars, so transient occupancy tax, the Tourist Business Implementation District dollars went to this as well. So the project is fully funded thanks to all of these partners that helped contribute to the project. Pending approvals for the project, it will go to construction in May of 2026, and it is anticipated it will take 1 year to complete. Next slide, please. So with that, I will pause here and open it up for questions and discussion amongst the governing board. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. Questions or comments from the governing board? Not seeing any. Oh, I'm sorry. Cindy, go ahead.
I'll make one. While this is happening now in 2025, I want to say that Larry Sevison was pushing for this 40 years ago, this trail connection between Kings Beach and Tahoe City. We went through many environmental analysis of trying to keep this trail along the highway, which failed because of acquisition of right-of-way, private property impacts. And this alignment, I want to say, was approved when we built the first section of trail from Dollar Hill up to the Ridgewood area in our community. So I just want to give credit to Larry Sevison, who hung with this through the governing board, through the conservancy, and kept our sights on trying to make this trail connection happen. And Larry, if you're listening, all credit to you for this.
Brooke? Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is terrific. I'm super excited to start seeing more added to this network and connections, getting them all connected. It's super exciting. As we know, bike use has started to happen year round. As a matter of fact, I sometimes feel like bike trails get plowed before my street gets plowed. I'm very jealous of that. And so I'm just wondering, as part of the maintenance, is Placer County going to be plowing this bike path?
I don't know that we've discussed that, and I would, if our Shannon may know whether we've discussed it at this point. I know that the section for Dollar Hill has been groomed for walking and cross-country skiing, but not for clearing. But, you know, I certainly think that it would be the desire once there's a connection that makes sense to do that. But Shannon may know more than I do because staff hasn't briefed me on it.
No, that's correct. Depending on who maintains the trail, there's certainly the equipment available to either completely plow it or, as Cindy mentioned, even grooming it so it can transition and be used for winter activities, either with fat tires for bikes or cross-country skiing, both great options to get around. And when we're looking at plowing, definitely the focus is hopefully streets, but then the trails that are closer to town centers and that make connections. So it's just about the priority of where this lands and the type of winter you have and when they can get to it, and then what type of maintenance the trail receives. Thanks.
Right. We already fund the snow removal up to Dollar Hill. It's beyond Dollar Hill where they've just been grooming. And
Correct.
And TBID and TOT have been funding just the grooming of that. But from here, I think it starts to make those connections for beyond recreation to actually getting to a business community. And so snow removal makes a lot of sense.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for two motions.
Well, I would be happy to make the motion to approve the required findings, including a finding of no significant effect as shown in attachment A.
Thank you. We have a motion. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, Maria, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Alding,
Yes.
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Seda,
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Faustinos,
Enthusiastic, yes.
Mr. Keycapper,
Yes.
Ms. Gustafson,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Mr. Henigman,
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer,
Yes.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Ms. Loomer,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes,
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
thank you. And now I'm
Thank
looking for
you.
a second motion, please.
A motion to approve of the proposed project subject to the conditions contained in the draft permit as shown in attachment B.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? If not, Maria, can you please call the roll again?
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Ms. Alding,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Seda,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Faustinos,
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Gustafson,
Yes.
Mr. Keycapper,
Yes.
Mr. Henigman,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer,
Yes.
Ms. Loomer,
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
All right, thanks all. Let's move on then to agenda item 7B, which is the developed campground project. This is Globetrotters Properties LLC developed campground with 53 campsites and accessory uses at 176 US Highway 50, Douglas County, Nevada. APN 1318220011013, TRPA file number ERSP 2024-1277. Information on this item can be found on page 143 of our packets. And Brandy, if you could please present for staff.
Great, thank you. My name's Brandy McMahon. I'm a principal planner with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. With me today to present the project is Lou Feldman. Online, we also have Cara Thiel, Lou and Cara representing the applicant. And then we have the project engineers, Justin Sand and Julia Ashton. Also online is Dan Segan. He helped me review the VMT analysis. And then in the audience, Bruce Barr, he reviewed the substantial tree removal plan. So after our presentation, we'll be available to respond to any questions you may have. Okay, next slide. All right, so Globetrotters Properties LLC, they're the applicant and owner. They're requesting approval of the developed campground, which they're calling TLAS. There'd be 53 campsites, which would include 18 dome structures, 9 tree houses, and 23 sleeping shelters. The 18 dome sites would be in operation from May 1st to October 15th. The other units would be operational year-round. None of the units will have kitchens. 7 of the sleeping shelters would have in-suite bathrooms. There'd also be accessory uses. So there'd be a main lodge with a clubhouse and kitchen for guests, 3 comfort stations that includes bathrooms and showers, a barbecue pavilion, and then there'd be 1 3-bedroom accessory dwelling unit that could house up to 9 employees on site. Next slide. So the subject site is located at 176 US Highway 50 in Douglas County, Nevada. If there's an orange arrow showing you the site, it's privately owned. It's 9 acres. So it's really close to this office. So if you go down the Kingsbury grade and make a right and go 2 stoplights, you'll come to an intersection where you see the Round Hill Shopping Center. If you make a left on Elks Point Road, that's the road that takes you to Nevada Beach and the Nevada Beach Campground. The subject site, it's surrounded by Rabe Meadow. The beach, the campground, and Rabe Meadow are all owned and managed by the U.S. Forest Service. And it's tucked right behind the Dorla Court Shopping Center. It's very, very close to Edgewood and the State Line Casinos and the new event center. Next slide. So the property, so it's located on Highway 50. So if you go along Highway 50, you make a left on Elks Point Road and you go right past the Dorla Court Shopping Center. There is an 80-foot wide access easement on the U.S. Forest Service parcel, and they're proposing to access the property via the access easement. And then there would also be an emergency access onto Highway 50. Next slide. So one of the main reasons, or the reason that TRPA is supporting this project, it's in the RAID plan area statement, which has a recreation land use designation. And the plan area statement encourages continuing the existing recreation uses in the public beach, and then expanding the camping areas. And as I mentioned just before, like there's existing Nevada Beach, and then the Nevada Beach campground maintained by the Forest Service in this area, and developed campgrounds are an allowed use. Next slide. So here are the proposed structures, the sleeping structures. So there's the sleeping structures, domes, and tree houses, and the tree houses are just called tree houses. They will not be attached to trees. They're using dark earth tone materials as required by our design manual, and non-reflective materials also. Next slide. This is the elevations of the proposed lodge and clubhouse that would also include a communal kitchen. Next. The elevations, all the structures on site are at or below TRPA height limitations. Next. So the subject site, it's along Highway 50, which is a scenic corridor. In order to maintain the integrity of the scenic corridor, they're proposing to maintain existing trees along Highway 50, add additional vegetation, and then also the structures would be designed to comply with the TRPA design standards. And these are simulation provided to us by the consultant of what the proposed project would look like from Highway 50. Next slide. So this is a picture I took this summer of Zephyr Cove Campground. So TRPA does not regulate recreational vehicles. Obviously, this, when you're driving by, this is on Highway 50. This is what it looked like. And so there is a benefit to having these permanent structures that meet our design standards from a scenic perspective, and also maintaining that vegetative buffer between Highway 50 and the proposed project. Next slide. So in this particular area, projects screen at 715 vehicle miles traveled or below, and this project is estimated to generate 615 VMT. And one of the ways we got to that number is the applicant has agreed to deed restrict the accessory dwelling unit for employees only, so it could never be converted to like a vacation home rental. They're also proposing to provide 2 free electric shuttles to take guests around the South Shore to various, shopping or to recreation sites. There is access from the Round Hill Shopping Center via the Lake Link, which is the free micro transit provided on the South Shore. There's also access to bike trails. So the site is located adjacent to a Class 1 bike trail that takes you down to Nevada Beach. There's also a link over to Round Hill Pines Beach. And then it goes through Rabe Meadow, and it currently goes all the way to the Edgewood Golf Course. And there's plans to improve the segment between that area and then the event center or the casino core area. And then they're proposing to also provide free bike rentals on site to the guests of the campground. Next slide. The project does require substantial tree removal. So on site, they would be removing 226 trees, 14 inches diameter at breast height or larger. And then they'd be removing 54 trees within the access easement. A tree removal plan was prepared. Bruce Barr, our forester, did review it and is available if you have any questions. Next slide. With regards to Douglas County, there's two large public campgrounds currently. There's Nevada Beach near the site, Nevada Beach Campground, and then the Zephyr Cove Resort and Campground. And then there's group facilities. Those are facilities owned by an organization. So there's a 4-H camp that's owned by the University of Nevada next to Edgewood Golf Course, Zephyr Cove Presbyterian Center, and then Camp Galilee. And these are owned by organizations, for their members, but they also provide, often have camps and the availability to rent those facilities out for the public. We've had TRPA retreats at the Zephyr Cove Presbyterian Center. I've sent my kids to camp, both Zephyr Cove and the 4-H camp. So they do provide an opportunity for the public to experience Lake Tahoe. But when it comes to campgrounds in this area, there's only two current campgrounds. Next slide. We received a lot of public comment on this project, and with regards to what we did to reach out to our partners and the public during this process. So because the project is adjacent to the U.S. Forest Service and they're proposing to use the access easement, I have been talking throughout the past year with the Forest Service about this project. They provided a comment letter. The applicant is aware that they need to get a permit from the U.S. Forest Service, and they have previously reached out to the agency. I've had discussions with the Douglas County Community Development Department. They are going to require design review and building permits. The applicant did reach out to the sheriff's office because we do have concerns. It does get congested on Elks Point Road during the summer months, and that was one of the issues raised in public comment. We reached out to the Tahoe Douglas Fire Protection District. They spoke earlier this morning. The League to Save Lake Tahoe provided early on comments on our the VMT analysis, and we worked with them on that. They will need to get an encroachment permit onto Highway 50 from the Nevada Department of Transportation. The applicant, per my request, did reach out to the Washoe tribe. And we added a condition regarding if anything is discovered during construction that the tribe be notified, as well as other applicable agencies. The applicant provided will serve letters from public utilities. TRPA noticed property owners 2 weeks before this meeting within 300 feet of the subject site, which is what is required by our rules of procedure. And then we posted all the application material on the Lake Tahoe Info parcel tracker. You can, members of the public can access that information by going on the parcel tracker and putting either the assessor's parcel number, the address, the project application, or there's a map. You can just click on a parcel and pull up information that way. And that information is available for all of our applications. We did receive, we had public comment this morning, and then we did receive around 7 letters in opposition to the proposed projects, 2 in support, and then a number of people just felt like they needed more time to comment on the project. What I would like to do is I'd like to have Lou Feldman come up, give his presentation, and then if any of the governing board members have questions with regards to the public comment, then we can address them. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, governing board members, Lou Feldman on behalf of the applicant. I just have a kind of a general observation that it's hard to appreciate the level of effort that goes into submitting an application for any development project at TRPA, and the amount of interplay with various members of the staff given their various areas of expertise. This is not a over-the-counter submittal where you are not looking at all of the impacts in, quite frankly, from the applicant's perspective, excruciating detail, but Not an easy place to do business, not a place for the faint of heart. And with that editorial introduction, next slide, please. So the name of the facility is proposed to be Talaz, and as I guess some public comment has evidenced, but is probably generally known, the demand for recreation has dramatically escalated, particularly since COVID. The number of recreation amenities has not. In particular, the demand for campsites has always far exceeded the supply. And generally speaking, if you try and make a reservation for a campsite, which becomes available in the January 1st or 2nd of the year, by that afternoon, they're gone. So the undersupply is something that is recognized in this plan area. Next slide, please. And we haven't had any new inventory for campers in the basin in over 30 years. There is also a paucity of ADA accessible campsites. And as you have already been made aware through some of the public comment, this is really a kind of a next generation response to camping today. It's incorporating sustainability principles. It's a fire-free campground. There's no open burning. So the fire chief has already made some comments. We have worked closely with the fire department. And this also responds to perhaps my demographic, where when I moved here in the 70s, I was an active backpacker. And I know you're going to be shocked, but I don't backpack anymore. As we age, I used to tent camp, and I don't tent camp anymore. So, having an alternative that is more responsive to, shall we say, my vintage and perhaps below, provides a multi-generational opportunity that, quite frankly, is in short supply. The expression has been, you can now camp without gearing up. And through the years, I have donated a lot of gear. Next slide, please. This is the site plan, and as has been noted, the access would be off of Elks Point Road. There is also emergency access off of US Highway 50. There are communal amenities within the facility, so that cooking facilities, restroom facilities, the traditional amenities of an improved campground. And, one thing I think is important to recognize, the land use here is permissible for an RV park. That's a developed campground. And the density permissible for an RV park would be 77 RVs. The demand for RV spaces, like every other form of camping in this area, exceeds the supply. Given a choice between a sustainable, minimal impact, improved campground versus an RV park, and look, I have friends with RVs, God bless them, but that's not a low carbon opportunity. And having something that provides an alternative to an RV park, to me, is a superior land use. Next slide, please. As already has been noted, this is a recreation plan area. Prisons at one time allocations have been allocated to it, 500 in fact. None have been absorbed because, again, the supply demand has not been met and will, quite frankly, never be met. This is a modest attempt to move forward, but it is consistent with the planning principles underlying the plan area. And I think TRPA's threshold to advance recreation. Next slide, please. Obviously, with staff's recommendation, this has gone through a complete analysis involving height, density, land coverage. And I would point out, this is not a stream environment zone. This is going to be developed on high capability land. And With respect to VMT, I could argue we have worked closely with the transportation arm of TRPA. And while it generates 615 VMT and is therefore screened from further analysis, I think that's probably a very conservative estimate given the on-site EV shuttles and free electric bikes to the patrons. And the folks that are attracted to this are sensitive to, I think, environmental values. But nonetheless, the mobility mitigation fee is not immodest. It's $127,000 based on 615 VMT. The water quality mitigation fee is $128,000. The offsite coverage mitigation fee is almost $20,000. So condition of approval is, impact fees to TRPA of over $275,000 for a pretty low impact undertaking. Next slide, please. The parking supply of course being met, BMPs are of course being met, and as the fire department has already indicated, we're in compliance with the expectations of the Tahoe Douglas Fire Protection District. And because this is unique in that there will be no open burning is a pretty unusual camp experience. Next slide, please. This is important. This is a 9-acre parcel that actually was adjacent to where my old office was. I lived next to this parcel for 20-something years. It had been fenced and had been acquired for single-family development, not for a McMansion development, but for a full-blown mansion development. And in fact, was approved for a full-blown fenced mansion development with tennis courts, swimming pool, greenhouse, RV garage, and access off of US Highway 50. That is a previously approved land use for this 9-acre parcel. And if you're comparing what are the development potentials for the use of this private land, creating public access for camping or building out a mansion, I vote for camping. So next slide, please. I'm repeating myself a little bit here, but again, the intention here is to be above and beyond sustainable consciousness. 6 EV chargers, 2 EV buses on site, 30+ electric bikes free to campers, on-site housing for 9 employees, and that's year-round housing. And that's a benefit not only to the campground, but potentially to adjacent employers. Obviously, recycling, it's a plastic-free premise. And if you were to place a camping facility where you wanted to minimize vehicle use, it would be very difficult to find a site that is better located close to existing trails, the beach, shopping, indoor recreation, if you're so inclined down the block. It is an amazing location. Next slide, please. In addition to the attributes of the location, this is consistent with what a lot of partners have been working on in the basin, which is the destination stewardship plan. And the idea, this would reduce some demand on existing recreation facilities. It would operate year-round, which is somewhat unique for many of the camping facilities we have. Litter management, plastic-free premises, waste minimization, and there would be an educational stewardship messaging on-site component as well. And as has been previously noted, we have reached out to the Washoe tribe and will continue to work collaboratively with all partners, including the League, who has had valuable input in terms of the amenities. Next packet and next slide, please. So at the end of the day, this is, from my perspective, an opportunity to be really a multi-generational camping alternative where families are going to be the featured attraction, where people can come without having to gear up and are ADA accessible, meeting, incidentally, the demands not only of visitors, but we have a local population that likes to continue to experience Lake Tahoe in a natural environment. So with that, I am pleased to turn it back to Brandy or answer any questions you may have.
Brandy, I'm going to jump in to wrap it up, if I may. Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Julie Reagan here, Madam Chair, TRPA Executive Director. I just wanted to underscore a couple of points, and then we'll be happy to get into your questions. The point that the applicant's representative made about the work that's behind the scenes, I wanted just to emphasize that and just to say we're bringing you this as a staff recommendation for approval. And it's not something that we take lightly. And this has been going on for well over a year. Our staff, multiple members of our staff with various areas of expertise have been working on this to make this compatible with the vision that we have. And that vision is hard to achieve, and where people could have a park once, entering the basin, leave their car, and then explore the great outdoors and have public access to lands, which we have worked very hard to protect. Those projects are few and far between. And so we've done a lot of work behind the scenes to help make that a reality. And we're committed to working through this in the implementation. It very much ties to the informational presentation that Ken Caseman and our staff are going to do about more openness and transparency about the work that's underway, because it's very obvious from some of the public comment that we appreciate, and we've appreciated all the people that have contacted us, have said things that here on the record today, or have provided letters. You know, it is not always obvious the work that is going on behind the scenes of our staff. And so we are committed to work through that and to make sure that people know all the back and forth, how to access information that's out there for the public to know what's going on. But this did meet our requirements for public notice. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. And we do appreciate all the consultation with the partner agencies that Brandy listed on the slide. Two other key points. One, there is always a question when any new project comes before you, how is this, what does this do in terms of capacity? And we adopted an update of our regional plan in 2012. We're 13 years in, and we are still under the development caps that were set forth in that plan in terms of where we thought we'd be here. 13 years later, we're not even close to where we thought. So that was all anticipated in terms of future development at the time. And we had those big discussions and debates. Many of you follow that, or even some of you were a part of that. And so I think that's very important to note. And then the mitigation fees, just to clarify the record, when we collect mitigation fees, and in this case, more than $200,000, those fees are held in trust and they go back to the local jurisdiction, in this case, Douglas County, or potentially the Tahoe Transportation District, to enhance water quality, transportation, and air quality. And so that is the idea, that development that is consistent with our regional plan and that meets the code, then there is a private component to contribute to those environmental resources and to advance our thresholds. So Brandy, unless you had anything else to add, I think that concludes our staff report.
It does. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. Board questions or comments? Shelley.
Just a quick question, Brandy. On page 144 of the packet, there is a floor area of structures. What's not included is the clubhouse, which I assume is going to be the largest structure on site. Is there a reason why it was omitted? And is it included in the proposed land coverage summary?
It is included in the closed land coverage summary. I just wanted to disclose the size of the structures because we don't typically have these sleeping type of structures. And I just felt it was important to include in the staff report.
Okay. Okay. So can you just tell me what is the size of the clubhouse?
I can check and I will get back to you in a minute.
That's fine. I was wondering, there was a letter from the U.S. Forest Service regarding the permitting requirements for the removal of trees in the access easement. Would it be prudent to include that as a condition of the permit? I mean, we have, condition K is the permittee shall provide evidence that NDOT has approved the emergency access onto Highway 50. Permittee shall provide evidence that Tahoe Douglas Fire District has approved the project. Shouldn't we also include that the permittee shall provide evidence that the U.S. Forest Service has issued a permit for the removal of trees in the access easement, just to be inclusive?
Yes, we can include that. I have talked with the Forest Service and the applicant has talked with the Forest Service, so they're aware of the requirement, but I'm fine if we include that.
Okay,
condition.
well, in view of the letter we received, I thought it might be prudent to do that. And then there was a reference to an errata, and I apologize. I'm not on my computer at 8 o'clock at night or whenever it was sent. What's contained in the errata sheet?
Right, I should have mentioned that earlier. So it was brought to my attention, and let me just pull it up really quick, that I failed to make the required findings under chapter 50 of the code, and that's with regards to approval of additional recreational facilities. I made those findings yesterday and sent out an errata that is was sent to the governing board members and is available online.
Okay, all right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Vince?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation and thanks for your presentation, Lou. I was curious because I'm not really familiar with that land use category and what's included, what's not. It seems like a lot of the opposition has been because this is a built out facility instead of, you know, the old school car camping place, you know, where there's really no structures. And I just wanted to see, you know, what is included in our and how, because I can see why some people are making the arguments that this is a hotel versus a campground. So I just wanted to understand how we found it to be fitting into this category.
Thanks, Vince. He was Graham St. Michel, General Counsel. Yes, the definition developed campground, that is a use that's defined in our code. We've taken a look at that. As Julie said, we've all been, you know, really chewing on this project. There's not just one model of a developed campground, as we've heard. And I think that this definition lends itself, our code definition lends itself to different types of projects. And there's nothing in this definition that I see that you know, is a clear parameter that doesn't allow this type of project. I think ultimately, you know, everyone can have reasonable minds can differ of what you know, what is developed camping. That is your position that you hold as board members to look at that project and look at the code definition and then see if you think it fits. And we can walk through that definition. I can read it. I don't know if it was, I think we probably put it in the staff report, but I'll go ahead and read it. It's relatively brief. And it says land or premises. So land or premises designed to be used, let, or rented for temporary occupancy by campers traveling by motorized vehicle, and that contains such facilities as campsites with parking area, barbecue grills, tables, restrooms, and at least some utilities. And so I think, you know, we can go as deep as you like breaking that down. Again, from a legal perspective, I don't see anything in there that clearly, you know, prevents this project from being considered within that definition. We do have a definition of undeveloped campgrounds that just refers to land. Developed campgrounds, land or premises. A lot of times premises are, you know, can refer more to buildings. So, you know, you can get pretty technical in breaking down the definition, but yeah, at the end of the day, you know, I think there's room to find this project consistent.
And I know we have some hands raised online, but just in keeping with my tradition of going in the room first and then online, Ashley and Wes, I see you guys. I promise I'll get to you. But I see Cody in the room.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, I thank you for the presentation. So a couple things. I'm curious. Well, I'll go first into the removal of the trees, and this isn't something that I've heard it from TRPA, but I'm wondering, is there an ability to actually use some of those trees that are usable that could be milled in the project? And I only say that again, not to go back and add things to this permit, but I just think that would be a great thing if we're going to remove this many trees for the ones that are diameters that could actually be used in the building project. And, you know, you can get Alaskan mills, you can mill it on site. And I just think it'd be a great example when we're removing that many trees to put them in use in the built environment. So I'm just wondering if that's been considered or ever looked at.
Lou Feldman again. I can't answer that question. I would say that because the materials that are going to be used are non-combustible for most of the improvements, we probably could not mill and treat and utilize timber for construction. Now, there may be other uses for benches and amenities, which we would be happy to look at, but I don't think that the tree harvest would support construction.
Great. And yeah, just really more of a suggestion and something that I think could be great. Looking at the two entrances, I think one of the bigger concerns we're hearing is about, Elks Point and the road that gets clogged up on busy days. And then we've got this emergency access onto 50. And I see the point of it needs to be emergency access for public safety use, but I'm wondering, has there been a consideration to look at, once a guest is checked into the property, creating a controlled access there that guests that were registered had the combo to, or their room key would let them in that gate, so that the traffic, once a guest is checked in, isn't using Elks Point to access the property any longer. They're using the access on 50, and it would also be there for public safety, but it wouldn't be accessible by the general public, only by registered guests, if you follow me.
What I can tell you is the challenges to that intersection at Elk Point and Highway 50 are originating on the east side of Highway 50, where the shopping center is, for left turns and right turns. Once a guest is checked in, and if they're going to access the intersection, when you're leaving Nevada Beach and leaving the site, operates at level of service C, which is by Tahoe standards really good. We certainly don't have an objection to having guests checked in utilizing a Highway 50 ingress egress, but it works as proposed, and in collaboration with the fire department, we're happy to live with the condition as it exists, but are not adverse to revisiting the Highway 50 component should people think that's a better mousetrap.
Chief Lindgren, did you want to add into that? I saw you stand.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would like to just comment on that. From a public safety standpoint, we would not want to allow that. That's a very dangerous spot with the way the hill is. We have accidents there with stuff that is trying to turn in or out of sewer treatment plant road, and this is right across from that. So unless NDOT was willing to put in a traffic light there to make it safer, we wouldn't want any public access in or out there. We'd only want it for emergency use and mainly for evacuation. So if we needed it for an evacuation, then we could open the gates up, and then we have a secondary egress out of that area if needed. But our fire department access would stay off Elks Point because our fire station is right there. So they would make a left out of the fire station and a left a little bit down the street on Elks Point and go right in that way. And so it would only be used, in our opinion, for emergency egress only, just because it's a very dangerous spot on Highway 50.
Great, thank you.
And then in the room, Alex, and then I'm going to go to Ashley, has been super patient. Go ahead, Alex.
So a couple of questions. You mentioned working with the Washoe tribe. Have they assured you that there aren't any tribal resources that are being impacted by this? Have they signed off on it? Do they support the project? Or are they just kind of in conversation?
Just in conversation. And I would say, as the project develops, we welcome their active participation. We can't make them participate, but we want them to participate.
And hypothetically, if there was tribal resources found on the site, would you still continue with the development? Oh, Mike.
I'm sorry. We would assess the situation, collaborate with the historic resource experts, the tribe and TRPA, and make the collaborative determination. But we would suspend activity until a collaborative determination was made.
Awesome. And then, I strongly support expanding outdoor access. I think it's really important. It's definitely a priority for folks in California. Our government's made that one of their big priorities at the Resources Agency. And I appreciate the points being made about this expanding accessibility for folks that might have physical limitations or are older. There's a glamping site that I've seen in Mendocino, and it starts at $200 a night. So things like that, like I appreciate this expanding access, but when it's pricing out people that can't afford it, like it's just allowing access for rich people with physical limitations, which is still important. But I would love to see, like when we're thinking about expanding access, I would love to see access for people that generally can't afford to come to Tahoe. Like that's camping. I think that's like what we've seen with camping sites in Tahoe. It's like those are the families that might not be able to afford a huge Airbnb or hotel. So I would like staff to revisit how we're defining camping. I think this is, glamping is beginning to get us into a gray area where I'm not feeling like this is even accomplishing some of the goals that I would like to see us prioritizing with camping. So would encourage us to take a look at that definition.
Ashley, and then Wes, and then Belinda. Go ahead, Ashley.
Thanks. And actually my patience paid off because nearly all of my questions were addressed. So thank you. But I guess I want to just emphasize Alex's comment just now that I really want to have a sense of what a stay at this place would cost, in the sense that, right, if we're not actually increasing accessibility for people in middle or lower income ranges, we're just sort of forcing folks into casinos or, lower priced hotels and motels around the lake instead of giving them this access to nature. And so I think that's a really critical thing to understand, is who is this development serving? B, I really want to echo what Shelley was talking about in terms of getting that Forest Service permit in hand, because it is a substantial amount of tree removal. 58% of the site facing tree removal is nothing to, to just sniff at. We do obviously have an overstocking issue that causes a wildfire risk. So what I'd love to see is, with that tree removal plan, that you're really focusing first on the dead and dying trees that actually create a fire risk. And so I think getting that permit in hand from the Forest Service and working collectively with foresters who've worked on this to really ensure that that's the approach of the tree removal is important. Along those lines of what Cody brought up too, I think it would be great to know that the trees wouldn't be incinerated, but that instead they would be either repurposed or handled in a way that actually allows them to continue sequestering carbon. And really just with that permit, getting to know that we won't be creating an erosion problem or any other environmental impacts as a result of such a tremendous amount of tree removal. So as of today, I don't feel like I really love the idea of increased recreation. I myself have stayed in a glamping site in Nevada City that was affordable for our family, and really appreciate the idea. I just feel like it would be more helpful to know more about the tree removal, who the project is serving, and a few other features. I also appreciate hearing, the amount of mitigation paid and the way that workers have housing on site. So I do think it's a good project. I just have a few more hesitations and questions.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to address a few of the comments if you want to keep going through, and then we can come back after. That works for you.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks. Wes.
Thank you. I concur with Mr. Feldman on many points on this issue. Some of the questions that I had related to water, sewage, availability of trails, the accessibility of the dog beach, and I have been reassured that there will be no negative impact from this. As you may or may not know, I live very close to this project, and I was on the Round Hill GID for several years, and I'm very concerned about water usage. I'm now on the sewer authority. I'm concerned about the sewage uses, and all of those questions have been answered to my satisfaction. I agree totally with the argument that with the aging population, we need more places where folks like Lou and I can go without having to worry about where the nearest emergency room is so we could get some recreation. And I think that this is a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, I've gone from dry camping to wet camping to having a trailer to now thinking that roughing it is a hotel without room service. And that's telling. One of the things that I was also concerned about was traffic on Oaks Point Road. I live just up the hill from that. And I'm truly believe that this will not have a negative impact. And I concur with Chief Lundgren that having another source up further by Sewer Plant Road is just inviting disaster. So with all of that in mind, I am totally behind this project. Thank you.
Thanks, Wes. Belinda?
Yes, thank you. And as I think Ashley and several others said, there many points have already been made that I would love to make. And I just want to emphasize that, getting from the developer something, and I totally, understand ROI and how that works, and that you have to have a project that pencils out in order to do it. And I concur that having options for camping at different levels is important. But how we address the issue of accessibility to a wider range of economic status folks is really important. So I would definitely concur and like to see what the possibilities are of negotiations between us and the developer to determine is there a way to recommend something that will again, I'm not asking for freebies. I think something that is kind of a scaled cost that would allow for middle income people to be able to access the site. And also totally agree with the issue of tree removal, and let's get to the trees that are already sick and dying first before we knock down some really healthy good trees that are totally beneficial for the environment. So those are the two things that I think Ashley mentioned that I'm also just concerned about. And I think that's something that where we have an opportunity, just as we have with housing, to request that we have, affordable and, achievable housing, that this seems to be another opportunity to be able to get, achievable camping as well. So thank you.
I think at this point, maybe Julie, if you wanted to respond to some of the board questions and comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Julie Reagan, TRPA Executive Director. We've invited Bruce Barr up, our forester here at TRPA, to speak to the tree health and tree removal plan. I'm going to ask the project applicant's representative to talk about pricing and those considerations. So why don't we start with the trees, and I'll turn the floor over to Bruce.
Yes, Madam Chair, Governing Board, Bruce Barr, I'm the forester here at TRPA. I did review the documentation and the tree removal plan that came in. I've spoken with the forester. They have a licensed registered professional forester from California who was working over here. We had discussions on the project going forward, what they needed for a forest management plan. I directed him to Nevada Division of Forestry to use their harvest documents as that forest management plan. As far as the question about utilizing the material, as the applicant stated, they can't really go in and when it's structural material, they can't just go in and mill it with an Alaskan sawmill and utilize it that way. There are very few options for getting that material to a sawmill. It's something that I've been working on for 11 years up here, but it is a problem. The best bet now is going to biomass outside the basin. At least we're getting some utilization of that material. As for the trees that are being removed on this project, the Forest Service trees, the 58 or the 58% that was mentioned is the total project number of trees. The ones that are being done on the Forest Service portion of that are in the easement area. So that's the access. That's essentially the road going into it. That's where the excuse me, those trees are being removed. The trees on the remainder of it are essentially in the or the footprint of the project area. It is good to hear that Tahoe Douglas Fire has been working with the applicant, cleaning up the property. Essentially, they've been going in and taking ladder fuel trees, brush, dead and dying, and cleaning it up. That's a problem we have in the basin. When you have vacant, undeveloped parcels that are privately owned, any tree work or vegetation management is an expense. It's not an investment to these folks. So getting these properties developed, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but in most instances, we have too many trees. So we need to start thinning these, and to get them managed properly, they need to be able to get return on their investment as well. So it's kind of a win-win in that sense. And lastly, you know, when you hear a number like 58% of the trees are being removed, it sounds drastic. It's probably a light then for most of these stands of trees. That particular stand it's a nice area. It grows trees really well. It's growing too many trees right now. But I think that there's a lot of advantages to a project like this. Whether glamping is the best method, that's for you folks to decide. But as far as the forest health, I think that getting some activity in there and getting those stands cleaned up is a win.
I guess that leaves me to respond to rate. I don't know what the rate will be for these various campsites. I know that as we go through approval processes, we try and obtain benefits where we can. In this particular instance, we're deed restricting. We don't have to deed restrict, but we're deed restricting employee housing. That's a good thing. To impose a condition that we, in this instance, and you know, we have not tried to control hotel rates or anybody else's rates. How we would manage that? How would we require financial statements from applicants? You know, if that's a road we want to go down, well, let's be thoughtful about it and go down it at the appropriate time, but not as I'm standing at the podium, you know, trying to have a permit issued for a project that is, you know, extolling a lot of the values that we want to see extolled. So while I am, you know, certainly understanding and sensitive to what is the price point and is there an opportunity to expand the economic window, I just don't think that is something that we can manage with this particular project. It's a bigger question. That's the best I can do on my feet in front of you folks today.
And Madam Chair, I'll just round out the staff response, and if there's any other elements that Brandy McMahon would like to add, please feel free to do so. I appreciate the questions around pricing. One of the issues that we've worked through as a staff over the last year is the challenge that you look at a lot of regulations in general, not necessarily just with TRPA or in Tahoe, but often markets adapt and change and innovate faster than your regulations catch up. So camping is evolving. How people experience the great outdoors is evolving. National parks have been dealing this for years and years. We're kind of slow in catching up here, but we think the benefits to public access in an area that was once approved for one home, 9 acres, outweigh some of these concerns. I will say we are updating our recreation threshold, and I'm going to share a little bit of that in my executive director report, but this is coming up as part of looking at how we recreate in Tahoe. What is the future of recreation? How do you ensure that fair share access for all income, for all accessibility levels in the basin? it's a conversation we're having right now with our partners, with the communities, and we'll continue to do so. And we're also looking at how changes of use might occur on existing campgrounds. I think we all share that concern for income and access for campgrounds that are there today. What if concessionaires like Explore US or Aramark that manage other campgrounds in the basin, what if they want to change from $50 campsites to more expensive sleeping shelters? That's something that could come back around. So we're going to be proactive on that and dig into some of our rules and how we could tighten that up going forward. So I'll commit to you to bring back some of that. But as of right now, this, meets the requirements that we have today.
So I want to open it up for one more round of questions and comments. Cindy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to weigh in on this a bit because I used to operate a campground, public parks and recreation, and we do need more public park camping. And that isn't, to me, in public lands. And Burton Creek State Park, I had a master plan years ago to build a campground and yet has not done it. It's California State Park. But I know that we need more camping. What we're actually seeing in the campground I used to manage is more people trying to live in those campsites while they take summer jobs and things. And so I think it's a worthy discussion to have, especially as it relates to public lands. My concern on private is exactly what Ms. Reagan said. This was approved as a house. I think this is going to provide for more access to more individuals to this incredible lake. And I still want more public camping as well. So I think I would hope staff, we could look at that, why some of these campgrounds haven't moved forward, the public lands that are available, 2,000 acres of Burton Creek State Park. There's access issues, I know, but that is something we should be pushing for and making sure that we don't lose sight that we have started to price people out. Even at the hotels, this is still whatever they charge here, I think will be cheaper than Edgewood. So, it does provide access in some way, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the discussion on the trees as well. I know that's a constant concern, but I do know having active management on site is going to be an improvement over a vacant site with little investment. We have a lot of those as well. So thank you for the opportunity.
Shelley.
Lou, a question for you. We received a letter from a resident who lives close to this project area, concerned about the status of the fence. There's a split rail fence, I guess, that surrounds a portion of the property at least. She's concerned about trespassing on her property. Within the existing Forest Service easement, do you intend to create walking paths so you can guide people who are using, the campground to follow a path rather than jumping over the fence and walking on undeveloped ground?
Yes.
Okay, that was quick. Also, I wanted to mention for those of you who make the commute down the hill from the basin to the Carson City, you might see the logs that are stacked. Those are stacked on tribal lands, Washoe tribal lands. And it's now the location for the Tahoe Forest Products, which is the first new industrial scale sawmill in this region. So.
Cody?
So I'm looking at the map again, and I'm curious. It looks like the parcel stretches, I guess it's to the east or maybe it's the north, almost to where the exit for the shopping center across the street, the exit next to the spa store. And I'm just wondering, there's a parking lot that it looks like was it ever considered to take a road that would be basically across the street from that shopping center exit, that it isn't, at the top of the hill? Just because I think one of my big concerns is, Elk Point Road definitely gets congested. We all know that. And if there would be a way, for the neighborhood there and the residents to say, look, we've at least found, and even if it's only traffic that they can only go right or go westbound, and they can't cross the double yellow if they're going eastbound on 50. So it wouldn't be all of the traffic, but it would be some of the traffic could use that exit. And I just think that for me is probably the primary concern, is just that congestion on Oak Point. Not something that I want to stop the project for, but I'm just looking for a way that maybe, we can find a balance to it. And it just seems like the parcel stretches far enough to the east, I'll call it, to look at a road that would go that, to the bottom of that. So I'm just curious if that was ever looked at.
As I mentioned, I used to spend my waking hours pretty close to that site for a couple of decades, and there's an office building that is kind of next door. I don't think there is the geography available to reroute that. I think, as Chief Lundgren noted, it needs to exit at opposite or close to Sewer Plant Road, which is a bit of a crest, which creates the sightline issues that create the public safety issues. I would also reiterate that the intersection challenges are not people leaving the site turning right or left on Elk Point Road onto Highway 50. The challenges are from the Round Hill community and the shopping center above turning right or left. So I think the level of service C for that side of the intersection should be comforting.
No, that's fine. And I guess the only other thought is where the current exit, and it's only going to be an emergency exit. Again, if it was only registered guest and they were only able to take a right going westbound, and they obviously can't ever turn it left, so it's not going to create that into an intersection. I just think it's a consideration. It wouldn't be open to the public. It would only be open to the 100+ registered guests, but just a thought, and I think it could be a better guest amenity. And then another suggestion just on the forest products, understanding that they can't be structural, they're not going to get scored for that, but using them for benches, picnic tables, I think it's just a great example of using the forest products we've harvested and putting them to use. And yeah, with that, I think that again, I also support the recreational access. I think talking about the price stuff on private property is not really in the purview of what we are supposed to do, to tell somebody how to run their business on their own property. I think when we look into low income and moderate campgrounds available, they need to be on our Forest Service lands, on our public lands. Generally those campsites are for $35 and $45 a night. And so we need to make those more available, but I don't think we need to get into the business of telling somebody how to do their own business and what rates they can set. This is a free market capitalistic society, so I don't think that's our role. So thank you.
And I see Belinda and Ashley, I didn't know if you had hands raised again or hadn't taken them down. I'm happy to call on you. You're good? Oh, you do have your hand up, Ashley? Go ahead if you do, sorry.
Yeah, I just had one question about site remediation. So say this goes forward, they remove the trees, right? The site is prepped for development. And then there's no money to actually facilitate the project, right? What I didn't see anything about site remediation or a bond for ensuring security of the site, right? Because once you remove those trees, you're actually creating a runoff problem, an erosion problem. So I just didn't see anything in the materials we were provided about once the trees are removed, requiring going forward with the development and addressing, as we heard from our forester, the development that could actually help with wildfire risk reduction. So I just had a question for staff about that. How do we go from tree removal to site security to actually developing it? And what happens if they don't develop it?
Right, so Brandy McMahon for the record. So if this project's approved, after the meeting, we'll issue what's called a conditional permit. And prior to us issuing a final permit or acknowledging the permit, we will require that the applicants submit a security that we will hold. It's 110% of the cost to install best management practices on the site. And we could use that if there was an issue to go in and, restore the site if need be.
Thank you.
And thank you. And thank you for the question, Ashley. Julie Reagan here. And just to add to that, I just wanted to circle back to Bruce Barr's assessment, who's been on site. I mean, the majority of the area of removal, I believe, is flat. So it's not as though this is going to be a steep eroded slope, high capability land. So there should be a forest health benefit, whether there is a project developed on the site or not. So I just wanted to add that. And Madam Chair, the project applicant, Rachel Bowers, is also, she may want to speak to some of the questions that have been raised, and she is on Zoom. So just wanted to let you know that.
Can I also just add one more thing? So in response to Shelley's question earlier about the floor area of the lodge, so the coverage, it's a building with a large deck. So it's around 9,000 square feet, and then it's a 2-story lodge. The first floor is around 5,000 square feet, and then there's a second floor, but it's rooftop garden and deck area is a lot of it. So they're estimating the total floor area is around 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. And Kara is online, so if I messed any of that up, please correct me. But that's the email I've received from Kara and the architect.
Thanks. And Rachel, thanks for joining us. Did you have any further information for the board?
Hi, everyone. I just actually wanted to address, I've been listening in for the better half of 2.5 hours and really taking notes. And, you know, I wanted to actually just share my story as to my motivation to build out this campground, essentially. You know, I myself love the outdoors. I'm an eco travel enthusiast. And I also have a young family. My youngest is 1, and it can be quite challenging to do traditional types of camping, you know, with the outdoor elements, particularly in areas that have 4 seasons and a lot of wildlife in the area. But you know, my husband and I, we love to travel in the outdoors and camp and all of that, and glamp and do all of the outdoor recreational things. But I will say that I've noticed, and you know, there is a shortage, right? There was really kind of a gap, especially in Tahoe, where you can camp and you can do outdoor recreation, but there isn't necessarily a way to travel in Tahoe at the moment in terms of overnight stays where it's an eco-friendly experience. So I found this to be somewhat of a an oxymoron, since, you know, I believe that most residents in the area and people traveling there do appreciate nature and want to preserve it, much like everyone that's attended this meeting. So I really appreciate all the feedback. For me personally, this was a source of frustration as well. I like to leave a minimal footprint wherever I go. And I took all of that into consideration when curating this project, specifically because right now the options that you have in general, you know, if you're an outdoor enthusiast, would be traditional type of camping, or staying at like some eco resort where it's $2,000 a night. So with that in mind, I was personally frustrated and wanted to create something that I would want to stay at, that not only gave me that outdoor experience, I could bring my young family where it was an inclusive experience, but also within a reasonable price point. You know, my family and I were not spending that type of money, and I wanted to create something that would also open up that, you know, to the general public to be able to have that eco-friendly sort of experience as well. Because right now I think it's something that we're drastically lacking in general, not just in Tahoe, but nationwide. So I did want to just share that. And I do also want to address some of the main points that I've heard as feedback on this, which again, appreciate everything that everyone is saying, because I really, I can relate. And I personally, you know, feel as though these are legitimate questions and points in terms of, you know, the tree removal. With that in mind, you know, when we actually did take a very deep look into the tree removal. And I just want to say that removing trees isn't always a bad thing. We looked at the historical data of the site dating back to the 1800s and came to the conclusion. We've had a specialist evaluate this for our biophilic design, which essentially incorporates circular economy principles. And in that, we would essentially reforest in a more healthy manner. Right now, the Jeffrey pines are somewhat of an invasive species, and it's actually hurting the health of the forest in Tahoe. So with that tree removal, we do plan on replenishing natural flora and fauna, bringing in more shrubs and other types of flora and fauna that can attract and support the natural wildlife in the area. And thirdly, I wanted to mention the environmental policy, or excuse me, the environmental impact. And I heard many of you say that you would like to have an assessment And I completely agree. We are doing, those are in the works at the moment. Right now we have lined up the National Environmental, NEPA review, as well as an environmental impact statement, phase 1 site assessment. We also plan on being LEED Gold certified. So with that, for those of you who are familiar with LEED, certification is a very stringent process that incorporates a lot of those principles in terms of operations, environmental impact. And we also plan on adding in that educational piece within our campground, where guests can be educated on the preservation and importance of preservation in Lake Tahoe pertaining to the lake, as well as the forest, learn about the natural wildlife. And we would also love to extend that to the community as well. So offering it to school age kids or anyone that wants to participate in that. So we really are trying to be a positive influence, not a detrimental one, within the Lake Tahoe Basin for the community.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm either going to open it to questions or look to a board member. We have 2 motions we need to make today. So if I don't hear any more questions or comments, I'm looking for someone to make the first of our motions. Please, Shelley.
I move to approve the required findings, including the finding of no significant effect and including the finding in the errata sheet discussed on the record.
Thank you. We have a motion. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none. Maria, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Alding?
Yes.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Seda?
No.
Ooh,
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Faustinos?
Yes.
Mr. Keycapper?
Yes.
Ms. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
yes.
Mr. Henigman?
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Loomer?
No.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. And I'm looking for a second motion at this time. Shelley, did you want to make that one?
Sure. I further move to approve the proposed project subject to the conditions contained in the draft permit, including the requirement that the permittee secure a permit from the U.S. Forest Service for the removal of trees and the access easement.
Any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none. Maria, can you please call the roll again?
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Ms. Alding?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Seda?
No.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Faustinos?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Keycapper?
Yes.
Mr. Henigman?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. Loomer?
No.
Madam Chair, that motion passes.
Thank you. All right, that moves us on to our next agenda item, which is 7C, which is the transparency, accountability, and compliance tracking update and recommendations. Information on this item can be found on page 191. Ken, I think, is going to take us through this, please.
Yes, thank you. I'm Ken Caseman, the department director for our new reporting and accountability department. And I recognize I'm between us and lunch and the end of the meeting. So I will try to go fast, but also do want to take the time to address the concerns that have been raised both by this board, by the public, and our stakeholders as it relates to our transparency and accountability initiatives. And so today I want to go through our proposed approach to ensuring our long-term compliance with conditions of approval and to seek your endorsement for this direction. Next slide, please. Just want to remind, in April, Julie did a presentation to this board on our compliance activities in general, and to really update the fact that, compliance at TRPA is interdisciplinary and runs really the gamut across our pretty much the entire agency when you look at various roles that are played in our compliance actions. And with the reporting and accountability department, we're really extending that interdisciplinary approach. So next slide. Again, we've heard from you all, from this board, from our stakeholders, and from the public, that more information about our agency activities, more information about reporting is needed. And so, we showed this in April, and we'll continue to bring forward this type of information as we go through this project. Next slide. So in April, we created the Reporting and Accountability Department as a way to centralize this goal for long-term compliance reporting and for accountability. Our team has 5 staff members with the highest average tenure of any department within the agency, over 125 years of TRPA experience in our agency. So we bring a lot of institutional knowledge to this role. We also already manage our existing systems, whether it's our permit software like Tahoe Info, our records management system, as well as our document scanning and digitization project right now. So bringing reporting and accountability into the fold for our department was a logical extension of what we're already doing. And we spoke with many of you at various meetings, at the retreat. We've met with members of the public, and we met internally with all of our different teams to talk about what are the priorities for us as we embark on this new department and in these new roles. What are those priorities? And how are we going to rise to this challenge? And we heard from the lead this morning, and we've met with lead staff before about really how we build this accountability in the reporting of our activities to you. As part of that, we also reviewed hundreds of TRPA issued permits and documents related to those activities to really get a sense of what we want to focus on, what should our priority be. And so we want to review with you sort of those findings. So next slide, please. So again, the priorities that we've heard from you all and from these meetings were really that we needed better tracking of our ongoing operational and post-construction, commitments that are made and requirements that are issued in our permits. We want to better expose and better, talk about our inspection activities and our compliance activities, and demonstrate, the activities that we have in the field, those penalties that are brought forward both at staff level and in settlement agreements at the board. We want to regularly report on tracking of these projects, what are the status and the ongoing enforcement actions if necessary for those projects. Develop some online storytelling and dashboards and provide transparent access to this information on a regular basis. And we want to centralize all of this information into one place where permittees can submit their documents to us in one centralized place. And we want to get to the point where we're developing smart permit conditions that are attainable, that are relevant to the project, and that are measurable, so we can actually, look at whether the permittees have complied with them, and then report back if there are issues. So, next slide. So as we've evaluated these, hundreds of projects, we really identified that our permit conditions, as you go through our permits, really kind of fall into one of 3 phases. There's those permit conditions that relate to the final permits, issuing final permits, finalizing your plans and making sure that you're paying mitigation fees or posting security deposits, as we just talked about. And then if there's deed restrictions that must be recorded, all of that has to be done before you can go to construction. And so those permit conditions that represent roughly about 60% of the conditions that we've identified happen prior to acknowledgement. And Then we get into the construction activities themselves and making sure that projects follow their approved plans, that they're not creating noise or environmental issues or debris from the construction activity itself. And then post-construction commitments that are really fairly new in some of our activities, but looking at operational requirements or ongoing monitoring and reporting requirements that may be placed on applicants. Next slide, please. So we currently use the same permitting software as most state and local jurisdictions, and it's used essentially to track projects from application through construction. And you know, our current system really doesn't handle these post-construction commitments very well. So what we're looking at is really establishing processes for handling these post-construction, projects. And so when we look at, those permit conditions that relate to prior to acknowledgement, our planners really address those issues at staff level, working with permittees. We have the ability to assess penalties, double filing fees, and other things that can happen in that prior to acknowledgement phase. And then our field compliance inspectors ensure that the construction requirements are handled, and we have mechanisms within those, within that process to issue cease and desist orders or stop construction orders or other activities that the inspectors can do to make sure that permittees are following those conditions. So really what we're talking about is how do we, through the reporting and accountability department, now establish those same types of criteria for the post-construction commitments. Next slide, please. And to dig a little bit deeper into what we're talking about, we kind of found that there's 5 main categories of where these post-construction requirements are. So reporting and documentation, where an applicant may be required to submit reports on their operations or other annual documentation. We have traffic and transportation management, which includes mitigating traffic from development, requiring shuttle services in a lot of cases for guests and workers, as well as employee transportation options and parking management options that we've seen applied to various projects through the years. From environmental mitigation and monitoring, we're addressing any issues that were identified in environmental impact reports and statements, and environmental monitoring necessary. So water quality monitoring or scenic or other issues that may require ongoing monitoring. From a land use and access perspective, there's often requirements to maintain open space or to limit events, providing public access to beaches or to piers or to other structures. So those types of requirements. And then finally, income restricted housing. We know, deed restrictions and requirements for that occupants of these properties maintain certain income levels. So making sure that those permittees are meeting those requirements as well. Now, again, this list also includes some other things that we've identified as ongoing permit conditions, but a lot of these already have existing processes, either through our inspectors or through other processes where we're already documenting and tracking these, the follow through on those conditions, whether it's BMPs or historic resource protections or others. So right now our plan is to really focus on those first 5 and to document and track these other conditions where we're identifying for projects, but not really report on them at this time. Next slide, please. So what we're talking about is right now we've been documenting the suite of projects that we think are necessary, and we're centralizing and improving these processes to gather this information and organize it. And right now we're focusing on about 50 to 60 projects that were approved by this board, both in recent years, as well as active projects that are currently still underway. And these are the big complex projects that have a lot of complicated permit conditions. Generally, the average single family dwelling, the average, projects that are reviewed at staff level really don't include these types of conditions. but it's typically the projects that come before this board. So when we think about recent, Waldorf Astoria and Homewood and the event center, and then going back to some of the projects that are still underway, like the beach club down the street, or Edgewood and those types of projects. And we're already engaging with our planners and with staff on upcoming projects that we know are going to include some of these things. So we're already engaging on Barton and other types of projects that are coming forward. And the whole point is, again, to hold accountable and build explicit and transparent dashboards so that this information is available to you and available to the public. As we transition to this online platform, we'll be basically centralizing all this information into one system. It allows us to include all of the source documents in one place to document the intent of these conditions. Why are we putting this condition into the permit? What is the source document for that? Did it come from an environmental impact statement, or are there other reasons or other plans that are necessary for us to understand the context for this condition? And then developing performance criteria and identifying what does it mean when this condition is met? What does it mean when this condition is not met? And what are the next steps that we would follow? And making sure that we're clear with our applicants and with our permittees about their responsibilities, and ensuring that they understand this information as we're putting it into the system as well. And setting clear deadlines for when things are due and how they can be provided to us. So this is all part of what we're building in this online platform, and then developing the compliance tracker and dashboard that will be on the TRPA website and provide regular information and ongoing updates for compliance for each project and the status of those projects and their ongoing activities, as well as a breakdown of some of these special conditions and where they fall into those common 5 groups that we looked at, as well as upcoming deadlines and any areas where permittees may have missed deadlines and what the compliance actions that we are taking from TRPA standpoint are. So all of that would be daylighted in this public dashboard. Next slide, please. In addition, we're planning periodic reporting back to our executive team as well as to this board, and developing recommendations for how we're going to improve our own processes and efficiency, developing those smart conditions so that as we get better at this, our permit conditions are more easily tracked, more easily reported, and we're setting clear and predictable expectations for our applicants and for our permittees. And finally, we'll be evaluating the structure of our permit documents themselves to make sure that all of this is clearly outlined in the documents themselves and in the permits that we issue. And it's all in the spirit of continuous improvement. So making it easier for our permittees to do what is needed, to know what is required and to do what is required, and easier for us to ensure that they're compliant. Our reporting and accountability work program does include development of other dashboards, as well as scannable reports for development rights, for new construction, and reporting on how many inspections we're doing in general, as well as application volumes and other data that we'll be producing and providing to you. But we really wanted to focus just on sort of this reporting and accountability piece in the ongoing permit conditions. But that's it for now. I'm happy to answer any questions, but really, assuming you agree with this direction, we do just want to make sure that we're in line with the priorities that you've provided to us, and that this direction meets those priorities. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ken. And I just want to say off the bat that you guys really heard the board with a lot of the feedback that we've been giving and incorporating it. So that was really thoughtfully done. So thank you for that. Other questions or comments, Alexis?
Yes, thank you. And I know it's really tough to find a software system that will help you with this, so I wish you luck. And I wanted to make sure that we are also working with the local jurisdictions, because as you know, the local jurisdictions permit events outside of TRPA. We do other sort of kind of cross permitting, and I just want to make sure that there's a way that we can make sure that Washoe County understands your conditions, so we're not stepping on TRPA or vice versa. And I'm also thinking about that on the deed restrictions. If there is a way this is a bigger project, but that we could sit down with our recorders offices from all the counties and make sure that those deed restrictions are also understood by their offices and put into their systems. And I understand that they may be recorded, but making sure that there's that like additional technology piece so we don't miss it, because I think that there's an opportunity for the counties to support you a bit more on that activity as well. So I guess I'm offering support from Washoe, and just want to make sure we're thinking of that. Thank you.
Cindy?
Ken, I want to thank you and the team. This is so important to the credibility, not only of this organization, but as Ms. Oler said too, that, you know, the local jurisdictions, and we constantly hear this throughout our county on conditions of approval from 20, 30 years ago, you know, and trying to dig up paperwork and who did what when and why. And so I really commend you. And I agree that if we could have the local jurisdictions into the same software programs so that it's easier for the public to track this and easier for us those who follow us in our seats to track those same conditions, I think that would be really incredibly powerful for everybody. So thank you.
Vince?
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. I'm really excited about it. And I was just trying to imagine how you guys keep track of all this stuff, especially with staff turnover, and it makes my head kind of explode. The only thing that that I could see that was kind of near to this, my wife was an attorney, and friends are attorneys, and they always have those calendaring softwares that poke up and remind them, like, you need to file by this deadline or this deadline. I mean, that's the only way I could see that working long term is when those things come up and just stay there lingering until they're checked off. But I don't know if that software would be helpful, but maybe something like that would be close enough that it could work.
Cody? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Please go
I
ahead.
did just want to add, so we are evaluating a couple of different software platforms that have been developed specifically for this purpose, that we think we may be able to utilize. But given the price of those, we will have to go through a public procurement process for. So we don't want to interfere with that process. But we have identified some software packages that actually do this compliance reporting kind of end to end, and provide the document libraries as well as the notifications and the due dates and things. So there's some pretty neat tools out there.
Cody and then Ben.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I also think this is just great for public transparency and a move that we definitely all need to make. And as far as the local jurisdictions, we have our MOUs, and I think it should be part of that we integrate our systems. It doesn't need to be the exact same system, but these days a lot of integration can generally happen through APIs and that kind of thing. We just at the city of Southlake, our police department just last week launched, it's basically it's a map app, but it shows every single call for service of the PD, and it actually shows exactly what was responded, what happened. And it's really enlightening to me even at how many calls of service we are actually doing all the time. And I think it was really cool for the public. And I wonder more on our enforcement side, if that's something that we want to look at, and not as much on the inspections and the permits that have been done, but what are we doing on the enforcement side, even in like 600-foot wake zone, or just all of the enforcement calls. I think the public, it would be good for them to know, these are the calls we got and here's what we did. And I'd say reach out to the city of Southlake PD to see that, you know, software that they're using is really cool and could work really well for that as well.
Ben?
Thank you very much. Yeah, certainly appreciate the direction. And I guess my only caution is how burdensome this process can become on the people we permit, right? And I don't know what that data collection flow is going to be, but whatever sort of process we implement, we just probably want to be cognizant of whether we're making it overly burdensome on as a process for the people who may have received their permits yesterday, 10, 20 years ago. Thank you.
Shelley, and then I'm going to go online because Ashley, thank you again for being patient. Go ahead, Shelley. Thanks, Shelley. Okay, go ahead, Ashley.
Thanks. So first of all, thank you so much for being so responsive to our comments at the board retreat. This is like really moving in the direction I think what we were all thinking of. So I appreciate that. And I also appreciate your notion of continuous learning through the data coming in. I think over time, as we learn all of this information and gather more, we'll also be able to see the cost of implementation of the regulations and the policies on the books and see like, is this, you know, an effective use of the board's time, sorry, not the board's time, the staff's time? Is this effectively achieving what we set out to do with these regulations? Is there an easier, faster, better, less expensive way to implement some of the regulations on the book? So that'll take time, obviously, and looking over years of data, but I think it's setting us up for that. And I really appreciate the work you've done so quickly after that board retreat. Thank you.
Shelley?
Yes, thank you, Ken. That was great. With respect to board presentations concerning, you know, the rate of compliance, for example, it's great to have this in digital form online, but this is where these things are publicly showcased. And I think that, you know, maybe like, if it's not too burdensome, a quarterly report would be great. Talking about some of these transparency issues, where we are in terms of rate of compliance, what are some of the common non-compliance issues that we deal with, just so that we can further educate the public about the process and the fact that even though it can be very burdensome, we feel that, you know, integrating this into our policy is important, as you stated, for credibility.
Great suggestions, you guys. Anyone else? Otherwise, I will be looking for a motion. I don't see any other questions or comments. So at this point, I am looking for someone to make the motion. Vince?
A motion to endorse the reporting and accountability priorities and deliverables presented by staff.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, Maria, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Alding?
Yes.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Seda?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Faustinos?
Yes.
Mr. Keycapper?
Yes.
Ms. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Hennigan?
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer? Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Loomer?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. And Director Reagan, if it's okay with you, maybe I speak for myself that I'm hungry and I don't want to cut reports or public comment short. I know those, and we want to be thoughtful and not starving. Is it okay with everyone if we grab lunch, take maybe 15 minutes and then come back and do reports? Is that okay with you, Director Reagan? Great. Okay, so it's 12:16. Why don't we come back like 12:30-ish with lunch in hand and we'll finish the agenda. Thank you. All right, you guys, let's go back on the record / start it back up because I am at this job, not my PUC. We are now into agenda item 8, which is reports. Julie, whenever you're ready, and I hope I didn't cut your lunch short, Executive Director Status Report.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board and the staff and the public. Julie Reagan, TRPA's Executive Director. I just have a few slides of events to go over. Before I get going, I did want to thank Deanna Reynolds for representing the Secretary of State's office from Nevada, from Secretary Aguilar and team. Glad to have you. She said she'd be happy to come back because we have great food for lunch. So thank you all for the lunch. It was actually quite a beautiful spread today. We appreciate it. So very happy that you were able to participate today and give our best to the secretary. You're welcome. It is fall, and this Delaware gal's in her peak season of fall, and glorious colors are coming to life all over the basin. So I hope you can get out and enjoy some of that. Before I go to the first slide, I did want to just hold up this book and a neat announcement. It is hot off the press. Mine just came in the mail. It's called Environmental Change in the Lake Tahoe Basin, a synthesis of science and public policy. And that is I don't know how many page, looks like 1,000-page synthesis. It's a lot of pages. Yeah, we're over 500 pages, but it's an incredible book that Bob Coates, who is a scientist from UC Davis, Dr. Coates had a hydrology business in the basin, but edited by Bob Coates, Sudeep Chandra, Alan Habert, Dr. Goldman, and Dr. Schladow. So some of the nations and the world's best scientists editing it. And Dan Seacon and I got to author a chapter. So we're really excited about it. There's a book launch party for those of you who enjoy book launch parties, October 14th at UNR Tahoe campus in combination with UC Davis and UNR. So really cool book about science and policy in Tahoe. And that's our secret sauce. That's what we do well. So happy
Is it on Audible yet?
That's a good question. I don't know. We will find out. I'm sure it will be. I mean, it's going to be a barn burner, I'll tell you.
If I can, when nearly Dr. Reagan becomes Dr. Reagan and moves to the next chapter of her life and is a college professor, you can be guaranteed that'll be one of the textbooks.
You bet, right? I mean, because that'll get our sales way up. But it's a big accomplishment, and a lot of partners in the basin co-authored chapters, and it's going to be a great read. So that's kind of a fun thing. Couple field tours we've been on. I want to just share for those that weren't aware. We had in the last couple of weeks, Secretary Wade Crowfoot came to Tahoe, Secretary of Natural Resources in California, Director Settlemeyer's counterpart in the state. And as part of the Tahoe Conservancy tour, we went out and looked at the burn bot, which is the little masticator that we've talked about in the lower picture in this slide, which is accelerating the pace and scale of fuels reduction in the basin. And we've had several pilots or several demonstrations in the last several months. And there's a pilot program going on in Incline Village, in Tyrolean Village and Incline. But we were out talking about also the Governor Newsom suspension order and how they got this 40-acre project right outside the entrance to the Tahoe Keys in a neighborhood accelerated. It sped it up by a number of years to get this project done. And I think it just wrapped up. So we were out there with partners. The picture of Secretary Crowfoot on the left, though, is in front of the Motel 6. And also that was on the field tour. Those blighted buildings, one of the most blighted sites in the basin is becoming restored. And it's a very environmentally sensitive area on the Upper Truckee River. And to see those old outdated buildings coming down is super exciting. So that was a lot of fun and a good way to showcase the good work of Tahoe that we're doing. And I learned I always, a lot of us, I was just speaking with Member Lane, the Conservancy Board also went out to the same location a couple days later. And we do a lot of these field tours, but we always learn things. And just to give you an example of the action that you took that allows equipment on slopes above 30%. Now we can go up to 50% with mechanized equipment. And this is the kind of machine that will be perfect for that. It weighs about 10,000 pounds. Traditional masticators could weigh like 50, 60, 70,000 pounds. So much lighter in the land, much more nimble, can get right up to homes and areas in the developed parts of the lake. So that was a wonderful tour. And on the next slide, I think we have a tour of the Lahontan Water Board meeting. Our Lahontan partners at the Regional Water Quality Control Board met in the basin a couple weeks ago, and Dennis Sabaglo is pictured in the top slide. The lower slide is the large group that went on the visit to the Tahoe Keys to talk about the control methods test. And Dennis also made a presentation in front of their board. It's the wrap up of the 3-year test that you heard this summer, but really pivoting to, what are we going to do next? Because the weeds will continue to be a lake-wide problem, and the time is now to act. What does that look like? How do we move forward? So it was a great opportunity to visit with the Lahontan officials at the staff level and some partners as well as their board members. And then we also had a field tour out at Van Sickle, one of the only bi-state parks in the country. Right there on the California-Nevada line, our group was the TIE Steering Committee. That's the Tahoe Interagency Executive Steering Committee. And we went to hear about some fuels reduction work and the future of that park, which you also just approved on the consent calendar, the next phase of work on the Nevada side with Nevada Division of State Lands and the Tahoe team. And that's another opportunity for more dispersed camping. It was a great eye opener because, you picture all these campgrounds and these parks that are very full in the biggest bed base in the Tahoe Basin at State Line. And then you walk up to Van Sickle and it's pretty empty, but there's not good accessibility. There's not a trail to walk. You have to walk on the road that goes right over the Nevada-California line there. And so how can we make these abundant public lands more accessible to all? That was a big conversation. So a lot of hard work from our team that went into that. So kudos. And then housing. And I know we have a report at the end of committee reports. And I know our vice chair would like to say a few words, but I also want to thank Vince for supporting all the Tahoe Living meetings. We've had the working group and the partner community groups meetings this week. We're rolling into October workshops with the community, but just a couple bullets of kind of what's bubbling up that you're going to hear about in November, looking at scaled development rights and scaled fees. A house that's 20,000 square feet requires the same development rights as a 500 square foot studio right now. Do we want to change that? Do we want to go into more performance-based standards that would be designed to get more stormwater infrastructure instead of going parcel by parcel BMP? ADUs, accessory dwelling units, keeps coming up in order to facilitate more on the ground. Do we want to have some consideration for a bonus pool, a new pool dedicated to ADUs that would get more on the ground? Or, these are the things we have to decide. You have to decide to direct us in the environmental review. And then site-specific expansion for housing sites, just really being more strategic. Like, could we collectively as a basin work to identify new sites that we haven't considered either on public land or in other areas that would be good for that workforce component for housing? And then where we are in the schedule, I think, is the next slide. And that is right here in the fall, working into community meetings. And then you have a workshop in November. And then by January, we're going to narrow that down to commence the environmental impact statement that, once again, as I've said, we'll look at cumulative effects and will be the first big EIS that we've done that will consider some of those things for many years. So that's going to be a big undertaking, and a huge shout out to our team, to Karen, Alyssa, Jacob, to many other staff members that are supporting a huge initiative with the community on this to make housing more affordable and to improve our lake. Leadership Academy, Belinda mentioned this, and I really appreciated that a couple months ago. Very proud. Our HR director, Angela Atchley, kind of hatched a plan with John Hester a couple years ago to start this Leadership Academy to grow the leadership skills of our team. We went through one round last year, and we just kicked off the second group of staff members, the second cohort that are going through. And this is everyone from people that are currently supervising people or not, but just doing a lot of self-development and continuous improvement over the next 6 to 8 months. So we had a one-day workshop with that team and a consultant that's helping us with that. So really proud, and the group is already excited, to grow and to learn together and to get to know each other, strengths and weaknesses, and how we can work together better to be more effective in our mission. And then I just have a couple more slides. Rory Lepore. Rory, why don't you stand on up? Rory is our new employee. Welcome, Rory. Yeah. Assistant Transportation Planner. He is joining the ranks of from intern to full-time staff members. Roy was an incredible intern for us in the transportation department, worked on Bike Month, a number of other issues, went to Boise State University, recently graduated, and also did a study abroad in Spain. So we're very excited for his paella recipes. So stand by for that. But really wanted to give Rory a warm welcome, and has already hit the ground running, is working on our regional grants program, which the Transportation Committee is going to hear about soon. So welcome, Rory. Happy to have you on board. Yeah, welcome. And we have an annual staff picnic every year. It was a pretty chilly day a couple weeks ago in September, but we had a huge turnout and just got to spend some time at Nevada Beach, had a scavenger hunt, had some good times. People went swimming, there were whitecaps, but it was wonderful and a good time for us to see our colleagues coming off a pretty darn busy field season. It was nice to take a couple hours and enjoy each other's company. And then I just wanted to tell you what we have coming up over the next couple of months. And if you know anyone that you want to nominate for the Lake Spirit Awards, you have about 6 days left in that. We'll be bringing that to you in October, the award, the winners. We have a couple shoreline project appeals coming forward in October. Transportation Committee is coming up the next 2 months, October and November. And then we're going to bring you an update on what's coming down the line for threshold updates in terms of forest health, water quality, recreation. And then November, as I mentioned, we're going to be getting into the recommendations for your consideration to help narrow what we're doing in terms of policy changes for housing. And we are reconvening the best acronym in the basin, TUI-SWIG, the Threshold Update Initiative Stakeholder Working Group. And member Ashley Conrad-Seda and James Sotomayor are representatives from the governing board on that group. And that is the group that advises on those threshold updates, because we heard you again at the retreat in April that we want to get moving. We want to keep these thresholds current. Recreation is in the mix, as we mentioned. So we're going to reconvene that group and then also do an informational briefing on a couple of them and bring that to you for action in the first quarter of next year for forest health and water quality. Got some shoreline work to do coming back before the Regional Planning Committee with the IPES line in Placer County in November. And then in December, Finance will be bringing our annual audit. We'll have our performance reviews, and those shoreline amendments then would come to your consideration for action. So I do want to mention, if the public are still online, these updates are another way the community can track what's coming before the board. The slides of my executive director's reports are always updated on the website. If anyone has a question about any of these individual projects or actions, they can follow up with our staff, with our public information officer. I did mention the campground project coming for action last month at the meeting. And so we'll do, again, a better job. We hope to make sure people are aware as what's coming down the line, just so you can be aware and the community and the public can be aware as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Next up, Graham, any updates?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to take, it's listed on the agenda, just a quick moment to kind of respond to some of the maybe a little apparent confusion in some of the public comments we received last month, and then we were seeing in the public comment record, written comment record this month, and just related to the phase 2 housing. It's been a while. It was enacted back in or adopted by the board back in December of 2023. And again, just seeing a little bit of maybe confusion about the effect of those amendments and the process for local jurisdictions to follow in response, right? And again, adopted 2023, amendments established basin-wide standards for height, density, coverage, and parking when used to incentivize deed-restricted housing. And in the code, when TRPA adopts new basin-wide standards, local jurisdictions, they have 3 years to act, or 1 year to act, and they essentially have three options. And again, that's in the code. And they can choose to adopt TRPA standards. So the local government can go ahead and adopt the standards through its area plan, through its own public process. It comes back to TRPA for approval of that area plan. The other option is they can take no action. If the local jurisdiction chooses not to act, or say they go and present it to their voting members and it's turned down, TRPA will then amend the area plan on their behalf. So either way, it will be done by TRPA. So the standards still apply, but but TRPA is just serving as the lead agency making those changes. And then for the phase 2 amendments, they were given a third choice, which was to propose equally or more effective alternatives. So they could propose alternative standards for height, density, or parking, but they need to demonstrate that the alternatives are at least as effective as TRPA standards in facilitating the construction of deed restricted, affordable, moderate, or achievable housing. So that I just want to say, you know, as final to wrap that up, that while local jurisdictions can run their own notice public process to amend the area plans, there's really no opportunity to simply reject TRPA standards. And again, the role of local governments is either to adopt, let TRPA adopt, or propose equally effective alternatives. So with that, I just hope that helps clarify for some of the you know, comments in the public out there, and helps everyone better understand and the interplay between TRPA, local governments, and the code and area plans. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Let's move on to agenda item 9, which is governing board member reports. Any members of the governing board have reports? Go ahead, Cindy.
I just had a couple. One is Fanny Bridge. The girders came in, and if you haven't had a chance to see, it's really a remarkable project. And I think we started construction, I want to say, on the new bridge in 2017. So finally, to get the old bridge down, to be widening it for bicycle and pedestrians and getting it finished is remarkable and quite an engineering endeavor. And I sure hope they make the November deadline. But Central Federal Lands was key to that project, as you all know, and it was great. I had the whole board up this week, and we went out to see it on Monday evening, and it was a remarkable number. These cranes that they're using are just phenomenal. So we don't see that in Tahoe construction much, so it was amazing. And then earlier we had a couple public comments, and I just want to make sure that we're always reporting on our housing efforts to unlock housing. So our lease to locals just this year has, which is a program in which we encourage homeowners to lease their home to local workers. We've spent over $300,000 and housed 90 people for 1 year. One of the concerns we have is this is a temporary, you're investing that kind of money, but you're buying 1 year. So we continue to look at how we can expand that or encourage those folks to maybe sell their houses, because our workforce housing program has now sold 16 homes to local families, and we are incentivizing that with $150,000 or 16% of the purchase price. But we are doing an analysis to see if that's enough, because our median home prices have gone up since we established that rate. So more to come on that, but we are doing everything we can to unlock housing. We know it's critical to our business communities, and I appreciate that we'll be hearing our phase 2, adopting the TRPA phase 2 amendments, hopefully at our November board meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Any other board member reports? Alex?
I can just give a quick one. So the California legislature wrapped up sessions. We're done until January. We'll reconvene in January. Yeah, I'm happy. Circling back on one of the reports that we had a couple months ago, there was a budget bill passed that allowed for really sweeping CEQA exemptions to basically stop all environmental review and community input on semiconductor, well, what we're calling advanced manufacturing, which can mean semiconductor facilities, chemical recycling, nuclear plants. There's all sorts of it's a big kind of catch-all category. There will be, I think, an effort for cleanup next year. Over 30 legislators signed on to a letter urging that we prioritize cleanup next year. It also allows for development on endangered species habitat, which was a big concern, especially when California talks about trying to conserve 30% of our lands and waters by 2030 for the sake of biodiversity. So I think that'll be a priority for a number of folks. Next year, we also, I think in Julie's email, updated folks on the Prop 4 allocations. That was the climate bond that was passed last year. There was a total of $3.3 billion allocated from Prop 4 this year. So that'll go to parks and outdoor access and conservation efforts and fish habitat and all sorts of cool projects. So we'll start to see that money touch ground next year. I think that'll be really exciting. So thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Anyone else? I'm not seeing anyone online. All right, let's move on to agenda item 10, committee reports. I believe we have at least one committee, Vince, that wants to report out, please.
Thanks. You've heard from a couple people now about some of the work we're doing for phase 3, for the phase 3 housing efforts. And this is a really huge process, and it's a huge amount of information. And the staff has done an incredible job. The packet that we got before the meeting on Monday, the Tahoe Living Working Group meeting, I don't know, it was really meaty even for me, and I geek out at this stuff. What I want to say is, well, I've been talking with staff members about trying to get some cheat sheets, some short, more easily understood pieces that we can send out to the board and make available to the public so that you can kind of warm up to what we're talking about. Because and I urge you all to do so, because if it comes to our board meeting and you're seeing, 300 pages of very nuanced housing policy presented to you, I think your heads will explode. So I hope that we can send that out and that everyone will take some time to do that. I urge you to. And I want to make the same plea to the public. Very few members of the public are showing up to our meetings. I don't think we had anyone at this meeting, on this full day meeting on Monday, where we really got into the weeds on all these different areas. And, a lot of people come to our board meetings and think that that's the time to change the policy. But by that point, we're going to have spent millions of dollars, tens of thousands of hours of our time and community member time and working with them. That is not the time to try to impact our policy. You need to be getting involved right now. And we have many different ways for people to do that. So by the board meeting, it's fully baked. It's paid for in blood, sweat, and tears. And I want to make sure you guys, I want to tell you, it's not the right time to show up for the first time. So get involved right now. That's my plea. I don't know that anyone from the public is actually on right now, but at least I guess it's incumbent. So thank you. And we've got some great ideas. I think the staff has found some really good ways to impact our housing policy to hopefully get more workforce and affordable housing here.
Thanks, Vince. Other committee reports? Any other committees have a report? All right, not seeing any. We are now on to our final agenda item. This is our final general and public interest comment period. Any member of the public wishing to address the governing board on any item listed or not listed on the agenda can do so at this time. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and we will hear public comments for up to a total of 60 minutes. I would like to just remind everyone that committee members can't and won't respond to comments, and comments must relate to matters within the jurisdiction of the agency. So with that, are there any members of the public wishing to make comment in person? Okay, seeing none, let's go online then.
Madam Chair, there are no hands raised to comment.
Okay. All right. With that, I am looking for a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thanks, guys. We're adjourned.